Welcome to the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast with your host, hailing from Kokona, Wisconsin, riding a CST Tires SSI Decals traveling back Yamaha YFC 450R, four-time ATV Motocross National Champion, number 25, Cody Jansen.
What's up, everybody?
We're back.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, episode 108 of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, CST Tires, in stock and available for purchase today at shop.csttires.com. I'm your host, Cody Jansen, saying hello to our more than 207,000 monthly Digging Deep listeners in all 101 countries in which you are listening, and this is our Gatorback Review Show. Gatorback 2023 will be one of those races that we will not soon forget. Jay Goebel from Impact Solutions said it best to me. How was that for an eventful day? Both great and terrible, all wrapped up into one. We have so much to talk about with some awesome guests on tonight's show, but first, let's quickly shout out all of our incredible partners. CST Tires, go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Thanks to SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, the financial advice of the Haymauer Financial Group, DP Brakes, Factory 43, Binky's Forever ATC Museum, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Introducing the Beard Hedger Pro Kit from Manscaped, a next-level beard sculpting machine. The Beard Hedger allows dudes like you and I to style our beards to exactly our liking with a zoom wheel featuring 20 different built-in lengths. This Pro Kit also includes shampoo, conditioner, oil, and balm for your facial hair, as well as free gifts of a brush, comb, and scissors. Get 20% off with free shipping by using code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. So rad that Manscaped is continuing to invest in ATV racing as a longtime partner of Digging Deep. Help us keep them in the fold and involved in ATV racing by using our Digging Deep 20 code so they know you enjoy digging deep and what we're all about here. Support all the great companies that support us, and for any products that fall through the cracks, you know what to do. Click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website to help us out. The 2023 season is officially in full swing, but we both know you still need parts and gear. No matter what off-road gear parts you need, Rocky Mountain ATVMC has you covered. But before you buy, simply click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website. By using our specific link, we get a percentage of what you buy on the back end, enabling you to help us out while purchasing the parts you need anyway. And did you know you can buy OEM parts from Rocky Mountain ATVMC as well? Yep, shipped conveniently right to your door. So click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner at diggingdeepatvmx.com to help us out while satisfying all your gear and parts needs. One new donor to shout out this week, Ryan Barnes. He left us a really cool message too. Ryan said, ATVMX Fantasy is an exciting way to stay connected to the sport that I loved being involved in from the early 90s through the 2000s. He's so right. Digging Deep ATV Fantasy has been such a blast. You can check that out at atvfantasy.com today. It's been so much fun, so competitive through these opening rounds. I think we had 6 winners at the Gatorback round here, which is amazing after all the craziness that ensues. And Ryan also left a message about Jasmine Plant, mentioning that he would love to see him on the show. That's something I have tried to make happen. Jasmine wasn't quite comfortable enough with his English to do something like this, a sit-down interview like this. But I'm hopeful that maybe in the future we can still pull that together. I would really like to try. So major thank you to Ryan Barnes for his donation. And if you're interested in donating and hearing your name on the show, you can find the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee donation links on our website. Major thanks to all who have donated. And if you can't donate, but you still want to help us out, you can leave us a rating and a review on iTunes and Spotify. That helps us out in a major way. If nothing else, it tells our partners how much you enjoy Digging Deep. So we appreciate everybody that does that. But now it's showtime. The 30-second board is up, it's sideways, and the gate is down. Time to dig deep.
Let's go!
After a 17-year hiatus, ATV Motocross made its triumphant return to Gatorback for the first time since 2006, and what ensued was one of the craziest days we could ever imagine. Things got wild just moments into Pro Moto 1 as Joel Hetrick and Chad Wienen went flipping, both taking hard hits in a first corner crash, a moment that would likely change the course of this season. We didn't know it at the time, but 8-time champion Chad Wienen had just broken his clavicle bone. Meanwhile, at the front of the pack, it was a knockdown, drag-out war as Jeffrey Rastrelli and Bryce Ford each battled for what would be a first career Pro Moto win to the victor. In the end, it was Bryce Ford who earned the first Pro Moto win of his young career, followed by Jeffrey Rastrelli. An honorable mention to Zack Decker, who was on rails. The Pro Class sophomore finished third in the opening moto. What a ride for him. But it was heartbreak that would occur as Zack Decker would go on to suffer a broken femur and wrist early in Moto 2. Absolutely gutted for the youngster, and gutted as well for Kevin Saar, who suffered a fractured L3 vertebrae in his lower back, and Cesar Jimenez, who like Chad Wienen suffered a broken collarbone in that melee at the start of Pro Moto number 1. What about Joel Hetrick, the reigning champ? He fought, scratched, and clawed his way all the way to 7th in Pro Moto number 1 from all the way at the back of the pack, and then followed that up with a clean hole shot and Moto 2 victory, leading from wire to wire in Pro Moto number 2. After all that, Joel Hetrick, a legend in his own right, would be on the podium after all. Take a bow, champ. You earned this one. But this day belonged to the kid. Bryce Ford passed Jeffrey Rastrelli again in Moto 2 in the exact same corner in which he made the pass in Moto 1. It wasn't long ago that we were talking about a podium drought for Jeffrey Rastrelli, but now he's a podium contender week in and week out. Jeffrey Rastrelli would log a strong second overall on the day with 2-3 scores, leading a bunch of laps in the process. But on the same day that Bryce Ford wins his first career professional moto, he secures his first overall victory as well. Bryce Ford is your winner at Gatorback, and ladies and gentlemen, there's a new sheriff in town. I present to you your new points leader, Mr. Bryce Ford. Bryce Ford will show up in his home state of Texas, donning those red backgrounds, signifying that he is the new points leader of professional ATV motocross. As we look to the rest of the class, Nick Janusa 4-4 for 4th overall on the day, Brandon Hogue 5-5 for 5th overall, and for a third consecutive time, it's 3 consecutive 6th place finishes for Logan Stanfield, who's on an absolute tear to start the 2023 season. Wesley Wolf was 7th overall, Zack Decker 8th, Max Lindquist 9th, and Cody Ford would round out the top 10. Honorable mention to Aaron Salinas, our top former Pro-Am rider from just a year ago. And did I mention that Chad Wienen was still jumping stuff with a broken wing? Legend. On to the Pro-Am action that saw Jaden Launderville taking the win, followed by Mason Jackson, who earned his first career Pro-Am Moto win in the process. What a debut for him. Blair Miller rounded out the podium in Pro-Am. In Pro Sport, it was Brett Musig at his familiar spot at the front of the pack. Tino Abatiello finished in 2nd, and Joe Chambers rounded out the podium in Pro Sport. And finally, Kinsey Osborne. What a story she continues to be. 2nd in Open B, 3rd overall in 450B, and a WMX win to kick off her championship defense. And that's going to do it for our quick hits segment. Now let's dig deeper into the action right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. All right, guys, the ATV Motocross National Championship returned to Gatorback for the first time in 17 years, and what ensued was arguably the craziest day of pro class racing in quite a long time. Brought to you by our friends at SSI Decals, your way. SSI Decals sets the standard in the decals and graphics game by making your identity stick. Visit SSIDecals.com today to see all your customizable options. And here to help us kickstart our coverage of this one is owner of SSI Decals himself, Mr. Ian Harris. Ian, welcome back to Digging Deep. Always love having you here. And man, when it comes to Gatorback, where do we even start?
Thanks, Cody. Appreciate it. Yeah, what a crazy weekend of racing for sure. That was my first time at that facility, and I was pretty pumped with the layout and how that place viewed from the fan perspective side. It was nice.
Yeah. So the first, even the photos, the videos that I saw right away, I mean, I had been building this like nostalgia storyline, but it really hit me like when I started to see the pictures and the videos, because it was very similar to what it used to be. I mean, there was maybe a little bit more elevation than maybe I like remembered, but it looked just like it did back then, which was cool for me. Cause again, as a mainstay yearly stop on the ATV tour for so long, dating back to the early 2000s and even previous to that, it's a cool thing for the history of ATV motocross to go back there. It looked like the turnout was awesome. The weather actually really worked out. I mean, it ended up being like craziness ensues, don't get me wrong, but it looked like the picture perfect weekend. And so many people commented on like how on top of it, the promoters were, how smooth everything went, all of that stuff. It just seemed like it was a picture perfect weekend, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. I heard the same feedback as well. And, you know, the weather leading up to it, we kept looking all week and it was 100% chance of rain, 90%. At one point I texted Harv, I'm like, is there an alternate plan? Just trying to make my travel arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure he's getting 100 text, phone calls, whatever from people. And me asking is, you know, irrelevant and not racing.
Yeah.
Just more curiosity because I wanted to be there.
Of course.
But yeah, I heard the same thing from other racers and families there, that the promoter was top notch, you know, and the track, the conditions is a little chilly, but I think condition wise for those guys to race on, it was perfect.
Yeah, I agree for sure. I was getting the same messages too, you know, hey, what are you hearing? Is it going to get pushed back to Sunday? Like what's going to happen? All these things. And this happens, right? Like it feels like it either goes one way or the other. Like when they predict a bunch of rain, it either is, you know, it really does deluge. It's really, really bad. Or this is what happens where you get some sprinkles. But that's about it. So yeah, it was a little chilly, like you said, but conditions ended up being awesome. The races ended up being awesome. But like I said, I mean, craziness ensues, and it was basically right away, at least in the pro class. Gatorback 2023 gave us some of the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. But I think we have to start with Bryce. At least that's where I want to start, because when you talk about the highest of highs, obviously Bryce Ford is the one that comes to mind. The day was completely owned by him. A day of first for Bryce, the now fourth year pro. Bryce wins the first moto. He wins Moto 1 at Gatorback, the first pro moto win of his career, before finishing runner-up in Moto 2, doing exactly what he had to do to secure the first overall win of his career. So a day of firsts, awesome day for him. I mean, I can't imagine the feeling for him. We'll talk to him later in the episode here. And you're a big part of Bryce's program, Ian. So take me through some of the day there, how the emotions, you know, kind of played out, how all the emotions were involved there. But tell me a little bit about the race day from your perspective as a main supporter of Bryce's program.
Yeah, for sure. So not knowing what the weather was going to do, you know, once we got there, I didn't make it for the first qualifier, got there for the second one, and it was kind of sprinkling a bit. And I mean, you know, those guys, it doesn't even phase them. It seems like, you know, looked like the second qualifier was a little slower, I believe, from what I could tell, and a little more wet on the track. But, you know, afterwards, I said, you ready to go? You know, and yeah, I mean, he's 100% positive, you know, was ready to go out there. And watching where I was standing kind of in the middle by the tower, I couldn't see the start very well. I mean, I could see him take off, but they head away from you and then make that left-hand sweeper. And I, you know, watched it so I could start my stopwatch, and all of a sudden I see quad just flipping. Had no idea it was Chad, Joel, anybody, you know. And I just was trying to watch the gear that they had on coming around to see who it was. And I seen he had Bryce had a good start per se. I mean, Rastrelli was out front and coming around, and it's like, oh, this is Chad and Joel nowhere in sight. I mean, that's, you know, typically what they're looking for those two guys, because
and it's very rare to not have them up right up front. Yeah, exactly.
See, you know, who's got to move up where and how it's gonna pan out. And I mean, I feel like that Bryce played it super smart and looked like mature out there, you know, just knowing from years past, and as those young guys mature and come up through and get more experience under their belts, how they're not just trying to push it and make stupid moves basically, and could cause a wreck for themselves and other racers. So yeah, I was impressed with how he patiently waited to make his move, and it was a great pass, and even Jeffrey said it at the end of the second moto. He's like, he got me there in both motos in the same spot, and it was, in fact, that Bryce just sent me a photo. I couldn't see this corner from where you're at on the top of this mound, where they'd come past you, make a left-hand corner and kind of go down before they'd come up over the finish line.
Yep.
And he sent me this photo that someone got of him, and he was literally like down in that corner over the bars, like his whole body, like he was must have kicked him funny or something, but he said it happened to him twice down there.
Okay.
And I noticed even during the race, a couple times he would lose time. Jeffrey would gap him coming up that finish line jump. And I said, there must have been something down there that bucked him funny, or whatever the case was. And
so you mentioning that, the Rated MX is where I was able to watch the races, like so many people. Michelle does an awesome job, and it was spectacular at this track specifically. You could almost see everything other than the start, like you said, and then that same corner that you're talking about. And I could hear the crowd, must be like closer over there, maybe, that saw something. And once or twice, and it was just like where Bryce was on the track. I'm like, oh, please God, like not Bryce, or any of those guys up front. But I thought, man, not Bryce. And I got that same feeling, like you said, where the gap changed and it must have been him, but he held on to it. And I think there was one other on the other side of the track. Like maybe he got kicked funny on one of the little step ups or something. But yes, masterful in the way that he executed that race. And it was kind of different. Like each moto was different, right? I mean, the first one, him and Jeffrey are basically both battling for their first career moto wins, at an ATV Motocross National as a pro. And I can't, that they both wanted it in the worst way. I remember posting that. Then the second moto, so Bryce secures that first moto win. Then the second moto is very different because so Jeffrey and Bryce are together again. Joel's out front, Jeffrey's in second, Bryce is in third. But Bryce doesn't need to make the move, right? He doesn't need to make the move for the overall. So I'm like, okay, like however this plays out, just have nobody tangle up. Like for both of those guys' sakes, they were both so good all day because it was just such a shadow. Like it was the same as the first moto again, except they're now in second and third, but scenario is totally different because now Bryce can play it cool. He doesn't need to win the moto. He's got the overall in the bag, just has to play it safe. And these two are like on top of each other. Again, I'm so worried that they're going to catch tires or, whatever. And like you said, same corner, Bryce gets by, just amazing. It was perfect on the Rated MX video there because it was right in front of the video coverage to see that, which was awesome. And the reason why, Ian, I needed to have you on is because, and I said this to you in a text just a day ago, that when we talked last week, you kind of called it because when we chatted on Friday, you said, don't rule Bryce out when we talked. And I don't know if you necessarily thought that you were calling a win at the time, but you had a hunch for sure. You knew something, and man, he executed that day so well. Like you said, I know maturity was a word you already used in this conversation here. You used it in your message to me last week. He just looks like a different guy. And on the preseason show too, when I talked about Bryce, it was more like he's turning into that consistent every weekend guy. You know what you're going to get. It's not the ups and downs of a few years ago. And that was no slight at Bryce. He's still just as fast, but now he's consistent weekend in and weekend out. And man, that was so perfectly on display this weekend because he couldn't have executed his two motos better than he did on Saturday. And to get that overall win for everybody involved, I mean, I'll let you talk about what the podium must have been like and those emotions and, you're part of that family really now with Isa and everybody else there, but just had to be top of the world for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure his feelings compared to us as fans, friends, family is, he has to feel like he's still on top of the world, I mean, and even for us and supporters, not just me as a supporter, but I mean, it's still a great feeling anytime,
Oh yeah.
A racer can win like that. So it's, it almost, it's that it brings that emotion, like, because you put so much time and effort and into not just them, not them putting it into themselves, but as a supporter. So it makes, puts a smile on your face for sure.
For sure. I mean, me as a bystander, just cheering for this kid who I've watched mature from, from a dominant, youth rider into what he is now. And it's just, it's like, I feel those emotions even for him, like this pure joy, because he's we watched him mature, like through all the classes and then become a pro and then kind of ride that roller coaster with him as a young pro. And now to see where he is now. And like, he texted me yesterday morning too and said, "Hey, like we did it," with a big old smile, like out of the blue, text me. And it took me a second to be like, what do I even say to him? I mean, what I wanted to say, and then I deleted it and told him I'm just so proud of him. But what I was going to say, and I'm sure I'll say this in the conversation ahead, is there are so many great racers that have never did what he did on Saturday. So many guys that we probably talk about as legendary guys or all-time really good, great pros that never did what he did on Saturday. And it just puts into perspective, because think about, I mean, all these years now, it's basically been a decade of like two guys winning, and Bryce got over the hump with guys like Thomas now, and dating back to John Natale, right, was one of the last guys to win. That wasn't the two guys that we've seen win over and over and over again in these last 10 years, basically. It's amazing to think of him getting over the hump. And I'm so happy for him, because he wanted it so bad at Daytona. Right. I was stoked for him because it was an awesome day. It was a great showing for him. Solid day, fast all day, up front all day, but he wasn't like over the moon about the podium. And now he gets the win, which is exactly what he wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see people, I mean, kind of like Joel said in his live Instagram, every racer has super fans, and there's always going to be people bashing this person or that person. But at the end of the day, any of those guys, that can win or finish up there like that, you can't discredit any of the work they put in, because man, that's a whole nother level,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and Bryce is getting closer. Bryce is getting closer and closer and closer. I think when we had him on that last episode, I remember telling him, "You're going to get it." Like, he's like, "I want to win one of these things." And I'm like, "We know you're going to get it." And for him to just execute it, like you said, everybody's got their opinion, but there are so many good guys out there. I know that there was a lot of craziness we haven't even discussed yet, but there was a lot of craziness on Saturday, but somebody was going to win that race. And there was there was a lot of fast guys up at the front of the class. Bryce ended up, again, he won the day. There's no debating that. It was a perfect day for him. And you had shared with me that you had spent the week with Bryce leading up to this race, leading up to Gatorback there. And you had so much good to say about him, on top of what you just said, but specifically, the drive that you see in him this year exceeds any other year. He's more focused. He's more mature, like we already discussed, seemingly wanting to prove what he's capable of. And like I said, I mean, to execute it so well on Saturday, that like winning there's probably no better feeling than winning, but to execute so perfectly and win, I mean, it's just got to feel like, like you knocked it out of the park, because you did exactly what you had to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, just spending the week with him down in Florida, he had his rig parked up, at a place, and was training down there near ours. And I went to Decker's with him on Tuesday, just, he's like, "Hey, come, you're going to come over and watch me ride, whatever." I'm like, yeah, for sure. So, and, he's got his regiment down of, whether it's cardio, lifting, riding. I mean, he's got his days down of what he needs to do and when he needs to do it, and just disciplined, and any athlete at that level, I think that's what you have to do, you know, where in years past, not that he wasn't disciplined like that I could see, but it just was a noticeable like difference, you know?
Yeah. I feel like you see that with every good athlete, you know, great athlete in any sport. You become regimented. You become very, you know, like, this is what I have to do every single day. Like, that's just how it happens. I mean, I've been around enough of these guys. I know, you know, Doug Gus did his motos at, you know, 1 and 3 or whatever the time was at the, you know, at that time. Like, that's just part of how this is. And that you're exactly right. Like, he's maturing into a pro's pro. And as a younger kid, not that he was not focused or not trying or anything like that, but you just figure out what you need to do to be there each and every weekend. And he's clearly figuring that out at this point. And, you know, I was thinking between motos, I'm like, okay, like, let's, you know, let the start of this second moto, you know, play out, and let's make sure he can, you know, be in the mix, not have anything crazy happen. Let's finish this thing, and to execute like he did, to ride as smart as he did, to have it play out where he's up front again and then can make the passes needed. He didn't need to make that pass, but did it anyway. But just so proud of him for all that. I know that you feel the same way. And one of the other things I wanted to touch on, Ian, is, you know, it's been damn near 20 years at this point. You know, 20 years ago, you find yourself supporting a young and up and coming pro, right? 17 or 18 years ago at the time when you started working with Chad Wienen. I know the scenario is totally different today with Bryce, obviously, with your daughter Isa dating Bryce and all these things. But do you ever find yourself like, man, life comes full circle. Here I am again with a young pro who looks like a major player in the future of the sport? That's a question I've wanted to ask you for so long, because they're so similar when you think about them. When you think of Chad back then being so crazy fast and, you know, needing to put it together, they're kind of shades of each other when you think about it like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like surreal almost, you know, because, and I've had those exact same thoughts. Like, I remember going down to Walsh's and Chad was down there, and he was training at this place, like not too far from Walsh's. I think it was Tommy Tantillo's old place, possibly. And I remember going over there and watching him ride, and he was the only one there. This was, you know, back, like you said, when he would literally get off the bike and run the track in his gear after he'd do a moto. And I'm just like, dang, that's craziness, you know?
Yeah.
So thinking, like you said, of all that, how it comes full circle, like it's just kind of like deja vu almost, you know, just not everything that how they train and do that, but just the whole complete package.
Well, being a part of a young pro's career, though, because I mean, who knows? I know you were you've been a major supporter of Chad's forever, but I mean, there's certain things like and again, I know you're not going to give yourself this credit, but you change any little thing with Chad's program at the beginning, and maybe it's not super successful. Maybe he doesn't find his way to Suzuki and Kawasaki and Can-Am and so on and so forth. Same with Bryce. Like, I've said for years that Bryce has such a great support system, you know, between his family doing all that they can do for him and you and all these great sponsors. He's just got Mark and everybody, like, such a great program, as good as it gets.
Yeah.
I think it's just so special. It's got to be so cool for you to be a major player in, you know, a guy like Chad's career, a guy like Bryce's career, so many guys you've supported, but to be a major player in some of these guys' careers, it's got to be special for you, because this all started, SSI Decals started from your passion for ATVs, right? So to be here, you know, nearly 2 decades later, still, you know, still completely submerged in the ATV game is a pretty special thing
for sure
for you as an ATV enthusiast, you know, such a huge player in the sport, supporting, you know, some of these guys, achieving their lifelong goals for a guy like Bryce and Chad years ago. It's just it's a really cool thing. And speaking of Chad, heartbreaker for him on Saturday. He and Joel, like you said, get tangled up in that first corner of the opening moto. Big tumble and a big hit for both guys. They both started way behind the rest of the pack. 17th and 18th, I think, is what it was, but way, way back. I mean, half a lap plus back. But I knew we had a problem right away, Ian, because Joel charging like crazy basically right away, while Chad was just rolling around. It was a season-changing moment at the start of Moto 1 there, Ian. It was a moment that's going to change the way that this season plays out, probably.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, for sure. I mean, like you said, I was standing there with Mike Walsh, and Mike's like, he's got to be hurt. He's like, if his bike was messed up or something was wrong, I still think he would be pushing more than he is now. Yeah. And, you know, as much as you don't want to admit or agree it's that he was hurt, I mean, I of course had that same thought, like, yeah, something's got to be wrong with him, you know, just to see even the x-ray that he posted, and, you know, to think, man, if that would have happened to me, I would have been out. Like, I'm not riding around with my collarbone like that.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. I thought the same thing, Ian. I thought, I mean, we've never seen this from Chad, right? Like there's no way that he's not out there getting every single point that he can get if he's not obviously hurting and wounded. So obviously, like after the race, right away, I mean, the race just finishes and I start hearing rumors right away of a broken collarbone. And I went into this a little bit on social media yesterday, but I don't feel comfortable reporting on rumors and speculation and all this stuff. So we confirmed Sunday morning after talking to Chad that it was a broken collarbone. And again, I was very confident that it was, but it wasn't something I just, especially out of private, like respect for these guys and respecting their privacy. I don't want to start shooting things out there without, you know, kind of talking to them first. So Chad did confirm, like I said, it was a broken collarbone. And I added in this though, how do I want to say this? I don't want to expect to see an extended absence from Chad necessarily though. And I say that, and you probably know more than I, but I say that because I know his plan is to get it plated, which speeds up the recovery and comeback time. So depends on how much he wants to push it, I guess, but we have, you know, 2.5 weeks here, whatever, until Texas here at this point. I'm just saying, like there's people, somebody commented on something this morning and said, you know, he's going to be out for 3 months. And I don't think that that's the case. I know we can't count the guy out, but if, you know, for the people that were around in like 2013 or whatever, Joel plated his collarbone and raced like the next week. I mean, that's how it can go. So the key is to have that break be right in the middle of the collarbone so that they can plate that thing securely. And that's seeming like I know Chad's got to get in there and get the surgery and get the plate and then feel good enough to ride, but the plate helps. So my thought was, if he can get it plated, there's a chance he comes back, you know, quicker than it would be otherwise. So let you touch on that, but, dude's a badass, you know. Tremelin posted that video last night of him, you know, jumping these step ups and stuff. And we know he's got a broken collarbone now. And it's like, I swear the dude doesn't get enough credit. He's so freaking gnarly.
Absolutely. I seen that same video, and that's what had me like, yeah, that's serious. And I just had that conversation with Jay Goebel this morning about Joel back, and I didn't know what year it was, but I said, I remember Joel breaking his collarbone and he went and got that thing plated. And I didn't know the time either of how quick he was back, but it was fast.
Yeah, and it was very fast.
Yeah. And I said that same thing. I said to Jay, I said, I wouldn't rule Chad out for Texas. Like he may not be 100% out there. And I haven't had that conversation with Chad, but
well, that's good, because I don't want to put you in a weird place for knowing something, but then having to talk about it here. So, okay.
But just knowing if that thing's fixed this week and they've got almost 3 full weeks off, like I would not rule him out.
So you're thinking exactly to a T what I was thinking. Again, if he can get the surgery this week, get it plated and feel okay, I expect to see him. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do.
Absolutely. He might not be able to go full 110% out there, but
he's going to give his 100% at that time. I guarantee it. He's going to wring out every single thing he can. I mean, he's an all-time great. I said to him and Danica after this whole situation, because like you said earlier, you know, you got all these super fans, everybody's got their favorite rider. You see all this crap on the internet, which is, I mean, it is what it is, you know, it's fans being fans, and that's not the worst thing. You know, I mean, we want those super fans to continue to support our sport and follow all this stuff and whatever. But it's days like Saturday where you see how much he means to the sport, as everybody and their brother asking about Chad, wanting an update, hoping he's okay, all these things. The sport has got a gigantic void, an unfillable void when he's gone in a day like we saw on Saturday for the first time in as long, in 15 years or whatever it is, not quite that, but 12 or whatever since he got hurt on the Can-Am. So it's been a long, long time. And again, like I said, he's an all-time great. He's a legend. And I think that we saw a glimpse into, that maybe, like, I know you and I appreciate it, but it's just one of those things. You see what he means to the sport on days like Saturday, for sure.
Yep, absolutely. And you notice it when they're not on the track, a guy like him, and they're not at the race, it's just, it's different for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a number of crazy situations, injured riders going on Saturday. This is obviously a trend. We'll have to get into them all. I don't know that it was like, there's certain people that I think want to blame it on Gatorback. I don't really know that that's it, Ian. I mean, the track was awesome. The racing was awesome. Promoters were awesome. I think it's just a fluke thing. It was fast riders, just getting together. Like, you look at the list of guys and they're so good. There's so many great guys out there. Like, when you got guys pushing the limit, this is just something that happens. But maybe the scariest of them all was the Zack Decker crash in the second moto there. Did you get a chance to see that one or what happened there?
I didn't see it happen.
Okay.
I just seen the end of it, or not even the end, but when he was on the ground, and no one, even as the fans were standing there watching, no one really knew what happened. And then afterwards, people are saying they thought his throttle stuck, and even a couple of the guys racing said, I think it was Cody Ford, said he was right behind him and he was pretty sure it stuck because the way he took off that jump and then dropped out of the air. And I mean, I don't feel like that it was the track at all. I think it was just freak things that happened. I mean, I think the track was wide. It looked safe. I mean, the deal with Kevin Saar, I didn't see that one happen either. I looked over and seen like 3 or 4 bikes like turned over and was like, what the heck is going on? And then the deal with Cesar, I think that was on the start of the first one.
It was, yeah.
He ended up, running into the back of someone and flipping over. And I mean, those are all just
happens.
Yeah, it does. That's right.
It just happens.
Unfortunately, yes,
it's a shame, especially to have it happen all on the same day. Especially, we got 20 pros or 21 pros or whatever the number is, full class. It's awesome. And then, it plays out the way that it does and we lose some guys, but it's just, I don't think that there's anybody to blame in this whole thing. So yeah, I mean, we got some guys busted up. Zach, I'm so happy to hear is okay. Kind of talking about the not wanting to, report on rumor or anything like that. I was hearing femur. I heard it for a whole day before I think we posted anything about it, but I didn't post anything until Jason, his father, reached out to us and said, hey, he's in surgery. He's, fully aware of what's going on. He's got movement everywhere. So that's all great news. And then followed up afterwards and said, he got the rod in there. It was a clean break, right down the middle. So everything's really, really clean as far as that goes. And I think he broke his wrist as well. I think that's what Jason said.
Yeah, that's what
but yeah, I mean, all things considered, right? I mean, it's terrible. And the biggest, like, you're a rider too, you're a racer too, Ian. So the biggest fear, this is what I was telling my wife this yesterday. The biggest fear I have as a motocross rider is having my throttle stick on the face of a jump. Like, that's my biggest fear. I mean, I think that's a biggest fear for so many people, because otherwise you feel like you're in control no matter what happens. And that takes all of your control away. So thankful it's not worse.
Yeah.
Obviously want to see him come back and get healthy. We'll probably won't see him till next year, I would assume, but hopefully, I mean, the shame of it is, and not to be lost in this, is how freaking good he was. Third in the first moto. He finishes runner up to Joel at the race at his home place the weekend prior. Yeah. He qualifies really well, both at Daytona and here. He finishes third in that first moto and really kept those guys in his sights. And then this happens and kind of overshadows all that. So I don't want to lose sight of how well he was riding, just by the way that it ended for him. So crappy ending, but man, he was on rails. Like, I had teased going into the weekend that he might be the next first guy to earn a podium that hasn't earned one yet. And he was on track to doing that if that second moto wouldn't have played out the way that it did. So credit to him because he was awesome.
Absolutely. Yep. And he kept Bryce and Jeffrey on that first moto within his sights at all times. And, he was pressuring Bryce before Bryce made the pass. And
exactly.
It was great racing. And he was, like you said, he was definitely a podium threat.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Ian, I can't thank you enough for joining me. This is awesome. Last thing I do want to go over with you is this new thing we're doing, the SSI Decals top 5 storylines that we were following coming into Gatorback, something new for this year. I figured I'd discuss those with you quick before we get out of here and get to Bryce, being that we slapped SSI decals at the front of these things. And so the number 5, you mentioned him already, Kevin Saar. We were monitoring Kevin Saar as our number 5 storyline, if he would thrive on his first U.S. outdoor here in the States. And he did well in Moto 1, another top 10 for him, but he'd end up getting hurt there in Moto 2, like you said, kind of fluke deal, quads tangled together. He ended up breaking or fracturing a vertebrae in his lower back, L3 I think was what they said, and kind of similar to so I broke my vertebrae in my back years ago too, and kind of same thing. Like I was surprised to learn that it was broke. It sounds like that's how it played out for Kevin. Where his back was hurting, ends up getting looked at, and then he's kind of surprised to learn that he's got a fractured vertebrae back there. So depending on the break, prognosis can be vast on the kind of break that it is. But I would love to see him come back and kind of show what he's capable of, because I had been saying for so many weeks now, like what an awesome addition to our series he was. And he very much looked the part of a guy that was going to battle right in the middle of that pack. Well wishes to Kevin, but he was doing really well. I mean, as we got to the outdoor tracks, that's why I wanted to see what he was going to do, because obviously a little more what he's used to coming from Europe compared to like Daytona, so hopefully fingers crossed we can see Kevin again here in the States.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, he was riding great, even that first moto as well. And I mean, I would say he's definitely was a contender, prior to that. Like he's going to keep all them guys honest.
For sure. So I was thinking, as we thought, we were going to see some rain for this race, like I'm like, okay, Kevin's a guy to watch. The GNCC guys are guys to watch, but it didn't play out that way. He was awesome anyways. So well wishes to him. Our number 4 storyline was which Pro-Am rider from a year ago would be the first to impress. And I would argue, so Adam Ulrich has been really good. Not to sleep on him. He's been quite impressive, to be honest, when you look at the results and how consistent he's been. But I would argue that Aaron Salinas, since the jump, has been the guy to really flash up and down in the motos a little bit, but his speed has been there. I would say, right around that top 10 in speed throughout here. And I think you're going to see him get better and better as the season unfolds. But Aaron is the guy that kind of stands out to me through 2 races here as the newcomer, the rookie to the class. I know Kevin Saar is kind of an outlier. John Glada is an outlier. Those aren't necessarily, that's why I categorized that as the Pro-Am guys from a year ago. But Aaron has been super, super impressive so far in his rookie season here.
Yep, I agree for sure. And I think just getting in the class, getting that experience of those long motos like that and the speed those guys are going is only going to help him improve.
Exactly, because it can be a shock at the beginning. Like there's no slow guys out here that are making me look good. So
that's right.
Credit to him for sure. Credit to all those guys. Number 3 was about Logan Stanfield. Storyline number 3 was could Logan Stanfield prove to be a top 5 contender again, nearing kind of that top 2 range in ATV fantasy terms. And Ian, he did it again. This is actually his 3rd straight finish dating back to the end of last season. And now 2 here to kick off 2023, 3 straight 6th place overall finishes for him, which is so gnarly in this class. So awesome. And his best career finish is a few years ago in the top 5 at Lake Sugar Tree. He's clearly going to do that again this season, because he's, to me, by from what I've seen so far, Logan Stanfield has clearly taken a step.
Yep, absolutely. And at one point, before I think any of the fans knew, during that second moto when Kevin was tangled up over there, someone was throwing out names. They're like, I think it's Stanfield. And I was like looking all over the track. I'm like, no, that wasn't Stanfield, because he had already came. Yeah, exactly. He was up towards the front. So
yeah,
I mean, impressive for sure that he came across, and
agreed.
no discredit to him. It's awesome that.
Yeah, awesome kid too. Just
For
I know I,
sure.
I probably say
So
that every
cool.
week, but awesome kid. Love to see him do well.
Definitely.
Storyline number 2, counting down to number 1 here that we were tracking. Number 2 was, would the real Brandon Hogue please stand up? Backed by SSI Decals this year again, which is awesome. Back with you guys. I hoped we would see, kind of what, obviously we didn't see what Brandon was capable of at the first race. Started to see it in the heat race. Then everything went sideways. New team for him. Obviously that's why, it's kind of one of those things. We just needed to see him do it on the new quad, the new team. He was fast in qualifying, second fastest, 5.5 in the motos on a tough day. I think that hole shots were so important. You saw the guys that were out front kind of break away and stay up front. So maybe that's part of it, but 5.5 in the motos. Thoughts on Brandon's day?
Yeah. I mean, laying down those fast qualifying laps like he was, I mean, and knowing that the start was so important, like you said, at this track, that if you weren't right up there initially, it was going to be hard to work your way up there. But impressive for sure. I mean, and I'm sure he's still working the kinks, or some of the kinks out with that Yamaha. I mean, switching bike brands, it's not super easy by any means. So, but impressive for sure.
And just a brand new effort. I know he's got Chad Reed there as his mechanic, which helps so much. I know Chad's on top of his stuff. They worked together last year, which I know was a big feather in that cap there, but yeah, I mean, totally new effort. So credit to those guys. I think if Brandon can just build from this 5.5 day, I think that we will see him, getting podiums and stuff like we came to expect last year, but running that class is just getting faster and faster. So we'll see what happens there. But the number 1 storyline that we were tracking was John Glada. Such a fun story from the first race there. GNCC specialist, making his debut in the motos of a pro motocross race. So impressive at Daytona. Would he be able to do it again? He was 12th in Moto 1. He DNF'd Moto 2. I reached out to him. I don't know exactly what happened there in Moto 2. Not the day he wanted, but still doesn't take away from how damn cool it was and how awesome the GNCC specialist was at the ATV Supercross. So would have played out differently if he wouldn't have had that problem in the second moto. Maybe he would have been right back in the top 10 again, but still super, super impressive so far this season was John Glada. You don't think of a GNCC guy, mixing it up in the top 10 with how good this class is right now, but he showed that he can belong. So anytime he shows up, he's going to be in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've helped John out for a number of years on the GNCC side. And I think it was knowing, even when he was invited to go to the Huevos thing, and he was out there showing what he could do on, motocross style obstacles. Like I watched him out there. I'm like, I mean, he definitely, definitely has what it takes. And then
no slouch.
Yeah, for sure. And then entering into Daytona and this one, and I even heard, I think Kevin Bailey maybe announced something about John's comment on lining up with these guys, versus GNCC, when, they go 2 hours of all out, as fast as you can go. But with motocross, it's 20 minutes of, basically balls to the wall.
Go,
exactly. So it's it was a good analogy of, I'm sure for him, he's used to, and he's made great strides over the last couple of years in cross country, coming up and being a contender for the win, on weekends. So it's cool to see that for sure. And to be able to just step over onto the motocross side, that's it's a different ball game.
Exactly. Credit to him for being as clearly great of an overall ATV rider as he is. So hopefully see him at more. That's the next question I'm going to ask him. Hopefully by the end of this episode, we'll have an answer. But hopefully we see him at more, because he's been awesome. So I've been really enjoying this storyline segment, Ian. Made the executive decision to slap SSI decals on the front of this thing to get a little more exposure for you guys. But it's been a lot of fun kind of talking about the storylines. Later in the episode, we'll get get into what we're going to look at going into the Texas round. But Ian, I think it's time to get the man of the hour, Bryce Ford, in here. So obviously, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for all your support of Digging Deep, of course. Congrats on the success this weekend. Podium sweep, right? For SSI with Bryce Ford, Jeffrey Rastrelli, and Joel Hetrick all putting it on the box. And yeah, man, I can't thank you enough for all your support of Digging Deep, and look forward to doing this again, because this is a blast. You're plugged in with so many of these guys, and shoot, it's just fun to talk some ATV racing.
Yeah.
It always is.
No, thank you, Cody. I appreciate it. And it's always great to be back on for sure.
Awesome, Ian. Well, I appreciate it so much. You're the man, and we'll see you soon. Okay.
Thank you.
That's Ian Harris from SSI Decals, presented by SSI Decals. And now here's Bryce Ford. Thanks so much, Ian.
Thank you.
We'll get right back to the show, but now a word from our sponsors. And thank you for listening to these ads. Without these great companies, none of this would be possible. Show your support for the people who support us. The official tire choice of Digging Deep, CST tires are the choice of ATV racing's elite on the track, in the woods, and every other terrain. CST tires swept the ATV racing world in 2022 as Joel Hetrick, Bryson Neal, and Bo Barron rode their Pulse MXR and Pulse HT tires to an ATV Pro Motocross title, GNCC XC1 Pro title, and 10th ATV Pro Works Racing title, respectively. Led by champion Joel Hetrick and podium contenders Bryce Ford, Jeffrey Rastrelli, and Nick Janusa, CST's Pulse MXR tire is the most trusted tire in ATV motocross today. Available in soft and standard compounds, the Pulse MXR offers the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics when compared to the competition. And did I mention they have a contingency program as well? Visit shop.csttires.com to join the CST takeover today, or prepare to be beat by someone who did. The best of the best choose CST. Do you? You know we're Team Blue Crew here at the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, as the Yamaha YFZ450R is the official ATV of Digging Deep. In a move started by 8-time ATVMX Pro Class National Champion Chad Wienen, who with his next championship will become the winningest champion in ATV motocross history, we are living in ATV racing's YFZ450R era. Alongside Wienen, 7-time GNCC XC1 Pro ATV National Champion Walker Fowler welcomed a pair of new champions to the Yamaha Champions Club, as the podium-proven Yamaha YFZ450R proved to be the winning choice for Joel Hetrick and Bryson Neal. This unprecedented success for the YFZ450R, its unrivaled quality and performance, and the clear fact that Yamaha is the leading OEM supporter of ATV racing has resulted in a complete Yamaha takeover within the sport quad market. Evident by the continuation of Yamaha's Blue Crew Racer Support Program, Yamaha riders will once again cash in on payout and prize opportunities in 2023, including a chance to win a brand new YFZ450R. For more info, head over to YamahaBlueCrew.com. Follow Yamaha Outdoors, as well as the new Blue Crew official channel on social media, and check out Yamaha's full proven off-road lineup at YamahaOutdoors.com today. SSI Decals, your way. SSI Decals sets the standard with the best looking decals, graphics kits, and vinyl wraps in the industry. Established in 1947, SSI took shape as an offshoot of their parent company by doing a little work for local pro Chad Wienen. Nearly 2 decades later, and fueled by a passion for ATVs, the company has flourished into one of ATV Moto's most recognized brands. From ATV Motocross, SSI has expanded into graphics and design work for top racers in GNCC, Works Racing, Pro Motocross and Supercross, off-road, and more, headlined by 8-time world champion top fuel drag racer Clay Milliken. Whether your project is big or small, SSI Decals will make your identity stick. Get started today at SSIDecals.com and use code DIGGINGDEEP10 for 10% off at checkout. Things are about to get sick. The Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast is brought to you in part by DID and their wide range of championship-winning chains. From the street to the track and everywhere in between, DID chains are designed to give you the optimal riding experience with great performance and increased chain life. Consistent to the core, pick up your box of reliability today. DID, what drives you?
We are proud to be partnered with Namura Technologies. For over 20 years, Namura has pushed the limit of value and reliability in the ATV and side-by-side market. Covering more applications than anyone in the industry, Namura's full line of cast and forged pistons, connecting rods, gasket kits, and industry-leading top-end repair kits and more have led to higher overall engine performance for your machine. Visit your local dealer or online at www.namura.com. and follow along on Instagram for giveaways and exciting new products in 2023. Namura Technologies, your one-stop shop engine component supplier. We are pleased to be partnered with Bronco ATV and UTV Components. Bronco has been an industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. With a catalog that includes a full line of electrical components, engine internals and cylinders, shock and suspension parts, winches, clutch kits, valves, carb kits, bearing kits, and drive chain parts, Bronco is your hard parts source for whatever you need for whatever you ride. Available exclusively through distributors around the world. Visit your local dealer or online at broncoatv.com.
All right, guys, brought to you by our friends at Yamaha and the race-winning YF Z450R. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a former Pro Rookie of the Year. He's an AMA ATV Pro Class podium finisher, a Quad Cross of Nations champion representing Team USA. He's the inaugural Huevos Pro Invitational champ, and now he's the winner of Gatorback, your new Pro Class points leader. Say hello to Mr. Bryce Ford, buddy. I'm speechless. I don't know how you even have words right now. How does it feel? A lifelong goal achieved just like that.
Yeah, Cody, pretty much you summed up how the last 6 months has went for me. It's been really, great for me. Something, I couldn't even dream of, winning Huevos, going to Europe, supporting our team there and winning that. But just putting in, steady work, and then going to Gatorback and winning my first ever moto. And then the nerves after that, going in and trying to win the overall, just ended up getting that. So yeah, it's been super good for me. Like I said on the podium, I didn't have a ton of words, but the feeling of finally accomplishing my first win is amazing. And, it's something I'm really happy for myself, because last year it was getting a little rocky there towards the end, but the last 6 months for me, it's really picked up, and I've just been putting in the work. And like I said on the last show before Daytona, my mentality is a little bit different. And yeah, everything's been going great. Just like you said, I've had a really good, off season and good start to the season. So this is amazing.
Yeah. So you texted me yesterday morning, and the text read, "We did it," with a big old smiley face. And I thought that was so cool. It took me a minute because it brought an instant smile to my face as well, because you were so happy. You were so happy after this win, on the podium at Daytona. Like, we talked to you afterwards, and like, you're cool with the podium, but it's not like you were over the moon or anything. And, you were just simply ready to win one of these things. And now, to see the smile on your face as you're talking about it here in front of me, you did it. Like, what a feeling that must be. It makes me so happy to see you trying to hide that smile, and you can't even barely hide it because you're that happy. Like, you made it happen, like a dream come true. It's just, it's gotta be the best feeling of your racing career. Like, when I went to look at lap times and stuff, and you pull up the results, and you know how the Pro Class is the very first class on the list. There's hundreds of racers on this list, and you're the very top one as the Pro Class winner at Gatorback. It's freaking amazing, dude.
Yeah, that's something really special to me. And that's something, that I've never really, even envisioned. Just growing up, I was always racing, that class. And in the recent years, I've been in the Pro Class, and I just have so much respect for, any of the guys that are in the Pro Class, but these top 5 guys, just any of them: Nick Janusa, Brandon Hogue, Jeffrey Rastrelli, Chad Wienen, just Joel Hedrick, all of them, everyone in the class. I can't say all the names, but just they're legit. And I feel like, everyone's really riding well this year. And it's just, yeah, to even think about that, and like being at the top of that list. I know there was some really unfortunate events at Gatorback, and some riders, had some wrecks and stuff. And I was just in a really good spot. I got a good start. I put myself there. And then I just had to execute on it. But it was, yeah, like you said, just seeing my name, at the top of that list, or, it on the top of the podium, it was something really special to me. And I've really been working on just, soaking in, in that moment, not really looking too far ahead. And that was something really special for me. And yeah, that race was nothing but amazing.
I'm glad that you're taking a little time to appreciate this one, because this is such a big deal. Actually, and I think I just said this to Ian, but yesterday when I was, thinking about what I was going to text back to you, and I ended up just telling you how proud I was. But prior to that, I had texted this, I put together this text, referencing how many great riders never did what you did on Saturday. All these great dudes you grew up looking up to, never did. There's a lot of great names that never won a race, that never won an overall. And now you've done that. Think about all the great racers over the last decade, when basically two guys were winning the majority of all the races, with the exception of a few for Thomas and, a couple for John Natale and whatever. But you broke through and won one of those things. And it's just, it's truly incredible. So let's get into your day a little bit, because it was so impressive to me, because each moto, like you referenced a little bit already, was vastly different. So starting with that first moto, take me through that. Did you know that something happened to Chad and Joel right away? I feel like maybe you did, just based on where you were in the first corner. I feel like you had to know at least a little bit of something.
Yeah, so just going into that day, I qualified fourth. There were Brandon Hogue, Joel, and Chad were in front of me. They got really good gate selection. The gate I chose was after the gate was a little bit sketchy, but it's pretty much just what I had to work with. I ended up getting a decent start. If you watch the video back, you'll see my head dodge back, and I felt like Joel's bike was coming at my face, but then it ended up taking a different turn. So I knew Joel crashed. I honestly had no idea Chad crashed, but I knew they would probably get up pretty quick and be on a charge back to the front. So I ended up coming out of the start in third, behind Jeffrey and Zack. And I knew I had to, try to pass Zack pretty quick, because the track was super fast. And I feel like Jeffrey is riding really well this year. And last year and years past, we've been very close in speed.
Yep.
So I made a pass on Zack, was just, riding my own race behind Jeffrey, felt super confident, really, flowing with the bike, the track. I felt like my fitness was really good, and just kept applying pressure. I think I passed him, and then I overjumped the finish line, and my hand blew off the throttle, and he passed me back. And then I just had to really reset, and just, work my way to figure out how to make another pass. I showed him the line that I took. And then I made another pass on with 2 or 3 laps to go, and really just felt confident and rode my race. Yeah, and just to be leading the race, I didn't even have a weird feeling, any doubts about it. I was just super confident, and just really rode my race. And then I got off the track, and that's when everything really changed for me. I, got my first ever moto win. It was unfortunate, like I said, what happened on the start. But I was in the right place at the right time. I set myself up with getting a good start. And yeah, just after that, I was a little bit, thinking ahead about Moto 2 and trying to get on the podium. But I tried not to worry about that.
So you shadow Jeffrey for the first 8 laps of that first moto, right? And you finally make the move in that split corner. First of all, and we haven't touched on this yet, but the track was rad. The track was super cool, especially some of the split lines and stuff. It felt like maybe not tons of passing opportunities, but enough. Like you were able to make some moves. The lines it looked like it was a really, really cool track overall. So you use that split line, you get in front of them. But my thought is you guys are like leading up to this, battling it out. And even after you make the move, obviously, Jeffrey wasn't just going to lay down and die. Both of you were shooting for your first career moto and potentially overall wins at this point. So what I was going to ask you is, like, in the moment, are you thinking about that? Because we all know, like, we've had that conversation with Jeffrey, how bad he's wanted to win one of these things for the last decade or whatever. So that was my thought, is like, one of these guys is going to get over the hump. Which one is it going to be?
Yeah, honestly, in the first moto, I couldn't really think about much. At first I didn't know who it was behind me, but somebody was breathing down my neck. And I got, he got next to me and then ended up passing me. It was Zack. He rode amazing. Honestly, he had more speed than me in the first one for quite a bit of it. And then I looked back, halfway through the race and saw Janusa in fourth, and we all know he's, a really good racer all the way through the race. So I was like, Bryce, you got to get going, you're pretty good with the intensity, but the endurance part we tend to, you know, struggle a little bit with. But I didn't really feel any you know, endurance problems in that race. But yeah, I didn't really have time to think about, you know, like the first place. It was the way I felt in Europe, where it was continuously, you know, going all out the whole race, which I really, you know, coming off the track, once you've accomplished the first place and you feel like you left everything out on the track, that's an amazing feeling. And that's something I've really been working on trying to do, is not just manage the situation you're in.
Okay.
Always give it everything you have.
Yeah, for sure. You obviously did that. So then you win this first moto. You got to be stoked. How quickly are you thinking about the second moto after you win the first one?
I think as soon as I crossed the finish line, you know, 'cause I know the situation where Joel was at. I know he got a 7th, and I knew that I really felt confident that I could potentially get on the podium, obviously 3rd, but I felt like I had a good chance at winning, you know, the whole event.
Yeah, so that was my thought for you going into that second moto, pal, was, you know, I knew you had to be thinking like, okay, Joel's, you know, 7th in the first one, Chad's at the hospital, you know, like this is my time. This is my best opportunity I've ever had. So just execute the start of this thing. And then, okay, now we go from there. I was just hoping that, I think I texted this to your mom, like when I congratulated her on the first, the first moto win there, like, let's just finish this thing. And man, you executed so perfectly from there.
Yeah, for sure. That thought was going through my head too, like just get on the podium at this point. But no, yeah, the second moto, I had the first gate pick. I felt like I chose a really good gate. And then it started raining right before our sight lap. And then it's like, you know, you really start thinking about everything. You know, is the gate that I picked slick? Is it good? You know, but we had a super good gate, felt really good going into it. And then got a decent start. I think I started 5th behind Jeffrey, Joel, Michael Allred, Janusa. And I pretty much knew I needed to be up there with Jeffrey. There can't be somebody in between us. So I had some work to do. A quarter into the first lap, I passed Janusa around the outside, and then was just trying to work on Michael Allred, and then I ended up passing him. And Jeffrey was in front of me, and same thing as first moto. We had a really good battle for 80% of the race. I ended up passing him in the same exact spot I passed him in the first moto.
Yep.
But just like the moto wins, and that was really cool. But to be honest with you, Cody, like the battle that me and Jeffrey had, and just the battling like with us in the first moto, me, Jeffrey, and Zach, that's what made the racing fun, and the win is super fun once you get off the track. But battling like that and just giving it your all, and you know, going off the track and feeling like you did everything, you know, that's what was really cool to me, is that we had really good battles, and it wasn't like, you know, I just got out front in the first moto or second moto and just ran away with it. It was really good battles, and it was a fight for, you know, that top step on the podium. And in the second moto, I was fortunate enough to pass Jeffrey, and then I ended up winning the overall. So it was, like I said, the day was amazing for me, and everything was great.
Yeah. So you hit the nail on the head there with, you know, leaving it all on the racetrack is such a great feeling. It's something you already referenced here. It's something you and I talked about in the past. There's no better feeling than that. And this moto was so similar to the first one, yet it was so different. So Joel rips that whole shot in Moto 2. He's got this little gap, you know, he's maintaining this little gap out front. He does his thing, but you find yourself behind Jeffrey again. You guys are 2-3, like you said, but why this moto is such a different scenario is you didn't have to pass Jeffrey for the overall. So I found myself like, man, like don't tangle tires, don't get tangled up with each other, be smart. But eventually you made the pass, like you said, in the exact same corner. And again, so much like the first moto, you executed things exactly as you had to, so perfectly, so calculated. And that's got to be a great feeling too. Not only did you leave it all on the racetrack, but you pushed all the right buttons, and it ended up with an overall win on the day. You put together the perfect race day, and that's got to feel as good as anything. If you put together the perfect race day and it's third, like that's one thing. That's still something to be super, super proud of. But to put together the perfect race day and win the damn thing, like perfect day.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's true. And like I said earlier, the day from the start of the day was a really good day, qualifying fourth, and then setting myself up with a good start in the first moto, and then doing the same thing in the second moto. It was, yeah, it was an awesome day for me. It was the first ever time I've, won a moto, and then I won the overall. So
Yeah.
yeah, Gatorback's a great memory for me. And like you said, I thought the track was amazing. We rode it Friday, which was something I haven't done as a pro, which was super cool, that hard setup. Yeah, just the whole event was really cool. I know there's a big dirt bike race there, but to have a quad race there, it was really cool. And I felt like everything about the track, there was 2 lines to pass. The racing for all of us was super good. For me, it was great. So I really liked that track, not just because I did good. I felt like the track was really fun as well.
I think so too. It made for some great racing, awesome racing all day. Like you said, double lines, split lanes, just cool stuff. And again, and I said this to Ian before you jumped on here, is, we were building up this nostalgia thing, and it really looked like so much like the track from, 17 years ago that we were posting videos of, which that was really cool. Okay. So you win this thing. So the second in the second moto, Joel's right there, really. I mean, he's a few 4 seconds or whatever it was out in front. 1-2 on the day for you, your first overall win. We saw some of the photos from the podium celebration and stuff, but what was that feeling like? Describe to me the feeling of crossing the finish line, because 99.99999% of people listening right now will never feel that feeling. So what did that feel like for you? Like, finally, your mom posted something about, like, it's been 16 or 17 years that you've been racing, right? Almost to the day to when you get your first pro class win. And I just, tell me what that feeling was like, standing on the podium as a winner in the pro class. Shoot, you're living your dream. This is what you dreamt of growing up.
Yeah, no, that's for sure some of it, but it just feels amazing. All the work I've put in, I haven't dreamed of, being the best pro since I was little, but once I started to understand the sport, and probably since I was 15 years old. So for the last, 5 to 8 years, I really dreamed of, wanting to be the best pro, and crossing that finish line. And like I've said, putting in that work and feeling like you gave it your all is truly amazing to me. And it's inspiring, because I feel like, I haven't always been the chosen one, or, a lot of people have doubted me, and just to anybody who races, I feel like all the kids, if somebody's doubting them, if their parents are telling them they can't do it, I feel like they should just keep pushing, and eventually, it'll come true if they put in the work. And that's just something I feel like I've never gave up on myself. The people who have supported me is, the reason why I feel like, I was able to do that. If I didn't have, one of the best trainers, or if I didn't have, the best mechanic in the sport, or, my family supporting me, I did a lot of things right, but they've also set me up to put me in those situations. Ian, the last 2 weeks, has went mountain biking with me. Everybody does such a big part in my life and my, racing. It's not just, about that race. It's about, all the work they put in. And that's, all the feelings when you cross that finish line. And first, that's everything, that I got to reflect on. And on the podium, I was tired for sure, but my body, I was confused, I was shaking, like I just won, the biggest race I've ever, been in. I went 1-2, did everything I could. And then I get on the podium, in the center on the top step. So it was something completely new for me, but I'm very grateful, I was able to do that. And that's something that, I'd love to do again. But just, it's the best feeling. It's, something I've dreamed of and I worked for. I've been pro for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
That's what I want to, work towards and be up there every time. But it's just, it's really special because I know all the competitors are super good. I feel like it's, it's amazing.
Yeah. The class is stacked right now, obviously, but kind of tying up something that you said there. I think that that's the coolest thing about all this. Not only, I've said for a long time that I think you have you have as good a support group as anybody with, your family and Baldwin and Ian and so many great people. It's as good as it gets when it comes to your program. The coolest thing about doing what you do, though, and other racers that are listening right now can relate to this, even in the smaller classes, the lower level classes, when you win or when you create these special memories, you're sharing them with your support system, with your family, with your group. And to have those memories shared, like, that's one thing that's so special, but you're creating them, Bryce. Like, all these memories that, that you have and your family has and the Harris family has and Baldwin, all of this is created from you doing something special on the racetrack. It's a memory that everybody will share for forever. And that's a really, really, really cool thing that I don't want you to lose sight of.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's what is really, I love about racing. It's been something, for our family and everybody in my support system. It's not really, I'm not going out there and making a bunch of money doing this. It's more about the family time, and, all of us are in this together. And that's, something that I never want to get ahead of myself or, discredit the people who, truly got me there. And I feel like, the people that have got me there are still with me. And like, this is, just something that means a lot to all of us. And I'm just a guy on the ATV, but it's like everybody puts in so much work. Like Mark, I call him, on a Sunday, Monday, Saturday. He's tries to make his time available for me and does what he can. Just everyone, my mechanic, my girlfriend, she does everything for me, and the Harris family plays a big role in just supporting me in racing and, really giving me a good opportunity and just like Ian, his involvement in the sport. It's something special to me, and it's people like that I look up to, and it really means a lot to me. It's more than racing. And I do this and I'm doing this now. It's just pure heart, and I just want to, make those people, feel special and do it for them. I'm also doing it for myself, but, just really give them the credit they deserve and just keep them with me and win it all together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure, man. So you referenced Ian a few times there. So how good is that number 4 going to look with the red plates? That thing is going to look so sick. Bryce Ford, you are the new series points leader. That has to have you as stoked as anything, pal.
Yeah, so that's something that's super crazy. I held that at his work like 3 or 4 years ago, just joking around,
Yeah.
not really having it in mind that I would hold it anytime soon. But pulling up on the podium, that's the one plate I wanted to hold. The trophy's really special to me, but to be, the guy in control of, of the points lead, it was, like I said, there was a lot of unfortunate events for people, but I was in the right place at the right time. And, just to hold that plate at any time, there's not a lot of people who have held it over the last 10 years. And John Natale was the last one that I can remember. He rode for Baldwin. So to give that back, to Mark and to be able to hold that at 20 years old is something, that really motivates me and, just excites me to keep going. And, something that's really special, and I hope I get a red plates on the practice bike or whatever I get it on, because I can tell you right now, the way Joel's riding, he's riding really well. I'm going to try everything I can at Texas to ride the best of my abilities, but he's killing it, and it's just I respect him and even Chad. They're both riding great, but it's just something that I'm fortunate to hold in the 3 weeks. I'm going to try to extend it, but these next 3 weeks, I'm going to do everything I can and hopefully get that red plate on my practice bike and really motivate me to keep going.
Yeah, I love it. So taking the red plate to Texas, kind of like you just said, your home state, obviously a home race for you. That is kind of like another really cool layer of this whole thing. So not only, does a race go to Texas, which is always great for you guys, close to home and all that stuff, but to bring the red plate to Texas is extra cool.
Yeah, no, that's really special to me. And the last couple of years, I feel like I've done really well at the Texas race. It's been at Three Palms, but just the energy of it being in my own state, I'm used to the weather and everything.
Mhm.
So at underground, I plan on going out there and giving it, 25 minutes 2 times. So 50 minutes of everything that I have. I'm going to try to hold on to that thing the best I can. But just keep doing, as good as I can. And I feel like I'll be satisfied with that. I did that at Gatorback and look at where we're at. So yeah, just super excited to have that going into Texas. Going to give it everything I have. It's going to help motivate me to keep going. There's really no pressure to hold it. I'm 20 years old. I'm still learning. If I hold it, that's amazing, and that's what I want to do. But we're not going to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That's such a great outlook to have. So the series, like you said, returns to underground. That's your first trip back there for a pro national, at least as a pro, right? Last time you were there, you were in pro-am, slaying it in pro-am. So that'll be kind of cool. Like I know I loved Three Palms. I loved it. A little bit different racetrack than we go to anywhere else. But it'll be exciting to go back to underground, right? A place very well, obviously, as a pro. That'll be kind of special too.
Yeah, it'll be something really cool for me. I'm looking to redeem myself. Pro-am was going super good until it wasn't. The mud tire blew off the bead and I was upside down. But yeah, no, I'm super excited to go there. I feel like that's a legitimate national track. So following Gatorback somewhere, I felt was a really good track going to underground. I feel like we're on the right path, and just really excited to have these good tracks on the schedule still. I feel like it'll be great racing. And I haven't rode there since we last raced there as in the national series, so I don't know what it's like, but yeah, just super excited to go there. I feel like, my track that I have in my backyard is very similar. So just gonna, go train on that, work, do everything I can, ride as much as I can, and see what we can do at underground. I know what I need to do off the start. I need to get better starts to give myself a better chance. But yeah, that's an awesome track. It'll be a good event. And hopefully everyone shows up.
Oh, heck yeah, man. So how does the outlook change? You touched on it just briefly, but how does the outlook change now? Because, you have one of these things at this point now following this weekend. If you think you wanted to win before, I'm sure that feeling is going to be that much more intense now. So I don't want to bypass you, enjoying this win and all this stuff, but how does that look going forward? Like, what does that look like now? That mindset changing, you're going to feel like you belong on the top step of the box, pal.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. Like, as as everyone else, the first one's like one of the hardest ones to get, and it's obviously the best one to get. So, just super grateful that I got that one. But I feel like the progress I've made this year and the mentality I've had has really helped me. So it just shows me that I need to continue to do the same things I've been doing. And I made a lot of progress. So I'm just gonna, stay consistent with what I'm doing. Don't, get a bigger ego or my head get too big. Just stay level, stay grounded, and just keep, working at it. And it's, something I was fortunate to get. And just keep working. I feel like I rode 2 really good motos, and I feel like if I did that at a lot of events, 3 Palms, I feel like I could have probably had a moto win earlier in my career. But yeah, just gonna keep, digging, don't give up in any moto. And just I think the results will come. And like I told you, I'm racing, 22 of the best racers, some of the best I feel like have ever done this. So I'm just super fortunate, to race those guys. If I beat them a moto here or there, it's amazing. But I'm looking to, be the best that I can be, and I feel like those results will come.
Yeah, I love to hear that from you. I think that if nothing else, it proves that you can do it, proves to yourself that you can do it. It's not impossible. There's very few, like I could understand if somebody thought, I know you didn't think it was impossible, but I could understand how somebody may think that because it's happened so few times for anybody but the top 2 for the last however long, for the last, decade. You get over the hump. So man, we're so damn happy for you. We're so damn proud of you. Congrats on your first win. They say, like you just said, it doesn't get any better than the first one, right? So what are you going to do to celebrate this? Or what are you doing to celebrate this? You got to do something special.
What I would like to do to celebrate this was get recovered and go and try to ride Wednesday, ride my bicycle tomorrow, just keep working. I like I said, I'm really enjoying just the way everything's going this year. My bike, it feels amazing. I feel like my tires, CST tires, worked really well this weekend on something, that some people might, say the Maxxis could be better on dry slick, but I feel like, the CST tires worked really well. Just everything, Cody, I like my whole program right now, my mentality, just my thought process with all of it, I feel amazing, and I'm excited to go and ride on a Wednesday after the race. I'm not like dreading this or that,
Yeah.
like the red plate for some people might carry weight, but for me it's it's something to be grateful for that you're able to hold and have. So I'm just gonna keep doing what I've been doing. I feel like it's working great. I have a lot of confidence after the way I felt I rode this weekend. So I just want to, keep the momentum rolling and keep the positive attitude and just give it everything I have at every single race, every single moment. And I feel like it'll all work out.
I'd love to hear that, pal. How's the hand? I got to ask you about the hand before we get out of here.
So the hand is honestly, it's like fully healed.
Oh, it's doing great.
It's a little tender, but that's, like I've said 1,000 times, I have great people in my corner, and some people help me with some holistic ways to heal your body, and I feel like that's why it healed up so quick. And I know there were some people out there saying I wasn't riding enough previous to Daytona, or
I read
just,
that. I was like,
just
what?
anything, like it might not be healed for Gatorback. And if you know me, I don't really care if it's healed or not. I'm gonna go out there and give it my all. And it was fortunately healed up. It feels good and it looks good. So I'm going to be able to ride between races this time, and just, keep making progress. But yeah, my hand's good. I'm good. So we're all good.
Good, pal. Well, I love that so much. Just stoked to see you doing as well as you've been doing all year long so far. Culmination of a ton of work to get here, getting your first career win, which is freaking awesome. You deserve it, buddy. Congrats again. Can't wait to see you don those red backgrounds. Like you said, it doesn't hold any weight. There's no added pressure for you, but it sure is going to look cool on that number 4. It's going to look freaking awesome, especially in your home state of Texas there. So I just can't thank you enough for joining me once again, back-to-back shows here. But shoot, we had to talk to you after a win like that. It's amazing. So this is one that you'll never forget, pal. And can't thank you enough. We appreciate you so much for sharing that with us. It's a really cool thing. And we've been riding this roller coaster with you. And shoot, we're over the moon for you that you were able to get it done. First moto win, first overall win, points leader, man. I'm just so stoked to see you smiling like this. It's so cool.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Thank you for having me on the show. And I hope to all the people that have chose me in fantasy this year, I've held my own weight, and I look, forward to keep doing what I've been doing. But no, thank you for everything you do for our sport. It really means a lot. And I was in your fantasy at Daytona, and that's stuff
and Gatorback.
That's what I like to hear. It's stuff like that, that I let affect me sometimes, but it's super cool to see, that you believe in my riding. Just anybody out there, saying positive things to me or whatever, it's what motivates me and what keeps me going. But just your great coverage of the sport is something I really appreciate, and I hope everyone else does. But thank you for having me on, and I hope everyone enjoys listening.
Yeah, pal. Thanks so much for the kind words. We love you. But till next time, that's your Gatorback winner and current points leader, Bryce Ford, right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, presented by Yamaha and the race-winning YFZ 450R. Thanks so much, pal. Congrats. Enjoy it a little bit, okay? Keep showing off that smile.
Thank you.
See you, pal.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
The following message is brought to you by Manscaped.com. The Manscaped engineering team has outdone themselves this time, creating the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, now available for purchase in the U.S. and Canada. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, an official sponsor of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, with this exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at Manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0, and I am blown away. This thing is next level. What sets this trimmer apart from all the rest? The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. It features a new multi-functioning on-off switch with travel lock for those of us who like to travel. And my favorite, the new trimmer allows you to customize your trim with 4 different guard lengths, an upgrade from its predecessor that only featured 2. If you're listening, you know that good tools are a must, so wait no more to get the best tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com by using code DiggingDeep20.
Hey everyone, this is Larry Mills, president of DP Brakes North America and proud partner of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. We at DP Brakes are a longtime supporter of ATV racing and the world leader in sintered brake technology, dominating the ATV world for decades by supporting the best four-wheeled racers on the planet. This year's lineup includes Jeff Rastrelli, Mark Baldwin and Baldwin Motorsports, Ford Brothers Racing, Nick Janusa, and many more, including Mr. Digging Deep himself, Cody Jansen. Plus all the top 17 GNCC pros such as 7-time champion Walker Fowler, Bryson Neal, Hunter Hart, Cole Richardson, Jared McClure, Adam McGill, and previous champion Chris Borich. These top riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer, products that ultimately help place them on top of the podium week after week. DP brakes are available through www.dp-brakes.com, or you can purchase them through your local Parts Unlimited stocking dealer, or you can even message us, myself, Larry Mills, or DP Brakes on Instagram or Facebook. And if you have any questions about product or sponsorship support, please ask us. We are waiting for you. Join the best ATV riders in the world equipped with DP Brakes, and have a great year, everyone.
Nearing 2 decades into the brand's existence, Factory 43 is back and better than ever, continuing to make major waves in the ATV world. For the 3rd consecutive season, Factory 43 is the official aluminum parts choice of the Phoenix Racing ATV team, providing their state-of-the-art Evo Nerf bars, MX-style front bumpers, and grab bars for 2-time champ Joel Hetrick. If you're in the market to upgrade your Nerf bars, bumpers, or grab bars, head over to factory43atv.com to see their full line of industry-leading products available for all makes and models. Head over to factory43atv.com today.
Success in the ATV MX world is similar to what creates financial success as well. The right people, the right advice, and more importantly, hard work and the benefit of an ongoing relationship as situations change and adversity is experienced. Do you have the right financial advisor to help you reach your goals? Haymauer Financial Group can create a personalized, goal-based plan to help your family prepare for whatever life brings. Call me, Scott Haymauer, at Haymauer Financial Group, a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services, at 920-338-8150. That's 920-338-8150. Offices located in beautiful De Pere, Wisconsin, with registrations and clients nationwide.
Headlined by the 4130 Chromoly, Launderville Steel and Concrete Supply is a full-service steel supplier of new and surplus steel, aluminum, and stainless steel products. This racing family-owned full metal service center and concrete product supplier comes with over 30 years of experience serving the entire United States from their central Midwest location. As the #1 choice for nationwide shipments and with available next-day delivery in select areas, LSE has you covered near or far. 4130 is not just the chromoly tubing and plate used in the building of chassis for an array of motorsports applications, but it is also the name of the newest addition to the pro paddock with riders Jaden JJ Launderville and Max Lindquist, introducing the new 4130 Motorsports team. Launderville Steel offers a large selection of material for any project, including their concrete division that can supply everything you need to complete your next business or personal project. For a quote or more info, visit laundervillesteel.com today or give them a call at 715-675-6193. That's 715-675-6193. Here at Digging Deep, we have an obvious passion for ATVs and pridefully enjoy sharing the sport's history. Since 2019, when the podcast was born, we've been working to partner with individuals who share our passion, but one man and his vision had been missing from our partnership group. Until now. When it comes to the sport's history, the hallowed grounds of Binky's Forever ATC Museum has it all. Binky Tapscott's mind-blowing collection of 3- and 4-wheelers has preserved history by spanning all makes and models from Honda 3-wheelers in chronological order to unique builds that shaped ATV racing as we know it, like Doug Gust's iconic DRZ-powered hybrid thumper and everything in between. There's no denying Binky's passion, a passion that we certainly relate to here at Digging Deep. Binky's goal is to share his amazing collection with fellow enthusiasts by making his prized possessions accessible to the public via scheduled visits. Follow Forever ATC Museum on Facebook and watch foreveratc.com for further updates on possibly getting a chance to see Binky's Forever ATC Museum for yourself. We are proud to welcome Binky's Forever ATC Museum to the Digging Deep family. Thanks for listening, and remember to support our partners. Now back to the show. All right, guys, back here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, and we're going to complete our coverage of this crazy Gatorback event with the return of a man who is always so good every time he joins us, every time we're lucky enough to have him on the show here. Brought to you by Blenders Eyewear. Use discount code DIGGINGDEEP20 for 20% off some of the raddest sunglasses on the market at an even radder price at blenderseyewear.com. As promised, welcome back 52-time pro ATV motocross podium finisher, one of the greats, Mr. Thomas Brown. Thanks so much for joining us again here, buddy.
Cody, pumped to be here. It's been a wild weekend of racing. I was able to see it. I see a lot of familiar faces just for a little bit, but man, it's good to be back on.
Yeah, for sure, pal. We're super stoked to have you. And Thomas, so we talked with Ian. We went over a lot of the biggest storylines of the day with him. Bryce joined us, of course. We had to talk to him, obviously, after his first career win there, something that you know about. We'll get into that a little bit. But with you, I'd like to go kind of down the results list and go over kind of each racer and what you might have taken away from these riders' days. But first, Thomas, last time you joined us here, we chatted about the school that you and Chad were hosting there at Gatorback. How did everything go down there with that?
Man, it went really good for what it was. We had a little hiccup with the promoters group and talking to the track, and it was nothing to do with the track and nothing to do with us on our part. We had a little hiccup is that they changed the rules that they allow the track to have events 10 days beforehand, and that had never been in the rules or worded, at least in the rules, the same way. So we had to relocate to their secondary track, which is their back track, which was still awesome, provided a lot of good good obstacles and good experience for us to teach on. So ultimately the school went really well. It kind of sucked we didn't get to really get the opportunity to get on Gatorback like we were told we could. And like I said, it was nothing to do. Chad, man, he crossed his T's and dotted his I's. He talked to refs, he talked to the track, and the track had no clue it was coming. And they, the promoters sent him a different contract just shortly before our event. And then all of a sudden it changed everything. And so we had to send a disappointing email out the week before, or just a few days before, telling people that it wasn't going to be on Gatorback, it's going to be on their back track, Diamondback. So that really bummed us out. We wish the promoters would maybe worked with us a little bit on that. We really tried to make sure that we were doing everything right and giving a great opportunity for some racers, and it did not work out. But man, the school itself, we still had okay attendance. And man, I feel like we put on a good school, and hopefully everybody that attended really learned something.
Awesome. Well, I didn't know about the hiccup there, but it seemed like, from what I heard some great things from our giveaway winners, right? From Nick Corelli and Jesse Dominguez there. They seemed like they had a great time thanks to you guys, and 88 lived to ride. And Thomas, so you guys didn't get to ride the main track there for that, but kind of fast forwarding then to the weekend of racing, I thought the track was so damn cool. It really did take me back, like you and I talked about, to, shades of the track 17 years ago when the series last raced there. It seemed better than it was back then. I know that those guys took it really seriously. So did Chad. He's kind of been a part of that, but it was just as nostalgic as I thought it would be, if not more. It was really, really cool. Maybe more elevation than I remembered, but the track seemed really, really, really cool. Like, I was super stoked that the series went back there, put it that way.
Cody, I really can't add much more. I have to say yes to everything you said and agree with. The track was absolutely awesome. Getting to see it, it looked like there was a whole split line section, looked like inside rollers, outside stuff, tons of passing, some really cool jumps and stuff on it. Yeah. Nothing I didn't feel like was too dangerous. So with all the injuries, which I'm sure we'll get into, it kind of gives it a bad feeling. But ultimately, the track was great. And it was an awesome race track. It looked like, obviously I didn't get to go race it. So me and you can only really speculate from the sidelines, but I think you're right. It looked like a great track, a great event as a whole. And man, I hope they got good feedback. And like I said, I hope the the injuries don't shine too negatively on it.
No, I think that you're kind of right on point with what I believe too. The track was so rad. It's going to get a bad rap maybe from some people for the injuries, but like overall, even from the amateur program, it sounded like everything was ran like clockwork, like everything was on point. Everybody's timing was really good. I just thought it was cool. Like not often do you find so many split lines and cool combinations and just really rad obstacles. All that kind of stuff was really, really cool. Like from the sideline, that was one of those tracks that you see like, damn, like I want to ride that track, you know? So that was super cool. But first things first, kind of like talking about the weekend there, I know, so you have a great connection with Bryce as we talk about these riders and their race days. He was, you know, once your understudy, obviously, so you know them very well, the Ford family. Now he wins his first overall, just like you did in 2013. So you know that feeling, Thomas. That's something that I can't speak on, but you know that feeling. So how do you think the expectations for Bryce in his own mind, how will that change now? Like for you, after that first win, how did that outlook change for you? Because I'm assuming it does change your outlook somewhat now, knowing that you can do it. Like you've done it. Like I'm sure leading up to that, you think you can do it, but then when you actually do it, it's got to kind of change how you approach race weekends after that, I would think.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I fully agree. The confidence goes a long way. Mine, I didn't get to ride that high roller coaster and see if it really propelled me to the next weekend, because I did mine at the final round at Loretta's, where Bryce has now this opportunity. He did it early in the season, and now he's going to be able to ride that high. It's only 2 weekends off to the next event. And yeah, I mean, it should really do it. It should give him confidence. He had to work for it, both motos. You know, obviously there were some mishaps with the, you know, Joel and Chad, which have been the staple of the front two guys for a little bit, but it should have showed him and you know, and Jeffrey along with that is, man, it's one mistake from these guys and we can be there. And then that one mistake being there turns into, it never did for me, but it could easily turn into these guys as, okay, I don't even need a mistake. I've seen what they're doing now. This confidence keeps growing. It really could carry him on. And it would be great to see somebody get up there. I would love to see all these guys battling for wins, you know.
Yeah.
But it would be great to see somebody get up there and battle with Chad and Joel and push on that, you know, put somebody else in the mix for them wins, which would be really cool to see. And Bryce, he's been hyped for a super long time. He's been good for a really long time. He was a great youth rider. His amateur career was short because he was so good. Stepped into pro rank, had great results right then. So he's really making those charges forward and, you know, making his name known.
For sure. No, I think that you echo something that we've talked about a lot, is those high expectations and, you know, all that pressure that I know at least he felt at one time, like that was on the verge of breaking him. Like that was on the verge of completely burning him out. And it does make me happy to see him overcome that. Yeah. Awesome weekend for him. I mean, you sat there and saw it. You at least saw the first moto. We'll kind of get into why you missed the second moto there, but just awesome to see. I thought that his racecraft was awesome. He didn't get too sketchy. He waited for the right moment. He made that pass on Jeffrey and then, you know, didn't go crazy after that either. Controlled it to the finish to win that first moto. So stoked for Bryce. 1-2 on the day there for his first overall win of his career, first moto win of his career. Now he's the new points leader. So he's just got to feel on top of the world. And, you know, now heading to Texas, right now we're heading to a track that is like home to him, or at least his home state, someplace he knows well. So do you. That's got to be a cool feeling, I would think, on top of it for him, Thomas, is kind of heading to the home state. Also, after all the success, running that red plate now at this point in your home state, like riding all those good things. I mean, that's going to be a really cool thing. You Texans are proud people, Thomas. I guess maybe you're a transplant to Florida now, I guess, but you guys are proud people, and that's something that he's going to probably feel. He's going to feel some momentum from that, I would think, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And as far as their soil at the Ford Brothers compound, it is very close to underground. And not only that, I'm pretty sure Randy Poulter did their newest track relayout. Yeah. And Randy is the original designer of underground. So there's a lot of correlations there. And, you know, Bryce has always succeeded in Texas. He's always had great results. Whenever it was a Texas track, he carries that confidence from being at home really well. So you add that with the race win, man, he could come out and, you know, really lay it down. I mean, it's definitely going to be a storyline, and man, I'm ready to see what he can do. You know, like I said, I'd like to see I want to see more and more people get up there and battle. And, you know, wish I could have been that man, but man, it'd be great to see somebody start challenging those guys and add another name for those wins.
Yeah, agreed. And kind of touching on that. So Bryce and Jeffrey ended up battling on the day for the overall win, basically. You know, they were around each other in both motos. You know that, like, for me, and I said this to Bryce earlier in the show, I was thinking to myself, like, which one of these guys is going to be the one to get over the hump? Because at one point in that first moto, you realize, like, there's a very likely chance that there's going to be a new overall winner here. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's either going to be Bryce or Jeffrey, probably. Which one's going to be the one to get over the hump? Doesn't end up being Jeffrey, but he still has an awesome day. He leads a bunch of laps in that first moto, the majority of them, 8, I believe, is what he led there. And then in the second moto, again, him and Bryce are neck and neck, 2 and 3 for the entirety of the moto. Bryce ends up getting him, but Jeffrey ends up second overall in the day. 2-3 scores, led laps, had great hole shots. He was up front all day. He was consistent. I mean, I know that he's not going to come away from that day, Thomas, super stoked. I mean, we know that he wanted to win, just like you always wanted to win too. But overall, I mean, it ties a career best for him. And overall, really solid day for Jeffrey, up front all day. And that's got to be a good feeling, I would think. I know he wants more, but it's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah, it is great. He has a new program. I know he's made some big changes in his program this year. You can see from the outside. And it looks like stuff's coming together pretty good. So that's got to be a confidence in itself right there. He just proved it there. He had a good run at Daytona, improved on that. And the biggest thing I would say is I saw Moto 1 start when I was there, Moto 2 start. I saw that he about got the whole shot again.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing I would take away from this weekend is, wow, my starts are there. And that's key. Like, if you can start consecutively being up there, it's just going to give you more and more opportunities. So yes, he got out-dueled by Bryce this weekend, but man, he's got to be taking some good feelings from that. And not only he's going to be going in with a high, he's starting off the season great, man. And he's a veteran, so he's going to be there until the end. He's done this year after year, and man, I'm right there with you. Watching them too, I didn't know who was going to get it. He led a lot of laps, and how many laps did Jeffrey led before this? So the pressure on him had to be huge. When he was in the lead, he was getting pressure from behind, and he rode like he had been there doing it for years. And man, it was really cool to see. They had a great battle. I'm sure you're going to get into it in that first moto, man. Jeffrey, Bryce, and Decker, man, they were going at it. And Bryce outdueled them all because Decker put some moves in there, and Jeffrey looked like he rode a very smart race up front.
Yep.
But man, it was both those two have to have super good feelings coming from the weekend.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And the thing is, like, I kept finding myself like thinking, because I knew that Jeffrey was going to be bummed if he didn't win this overall. Like the opportunity was there for him, but it wasn't long ago that he was on a giant, like a super long stretch of not being on the podium. He was on a podium drought of like seasons, so to get up there and now to be in the mix all day, second overall, awesome for Jeffrey. So I want to give him enough credit because it was a really good day for him. Damage control for Joel Hetrick, right? So you saw that first moto. We saw him a half a lap behind or whatever it was in the first one. He battles his way all the way up to 7th, and shoot, like, I want to get your opinion on this whole shot corner situation thing, Thomas, because we got all these people online saying that, there's dirty racing going on and this, that, and the other thing. I was so glad that Joel hopped on Instagram Live and kind of talked everybody off the ledge. Like, hey, I know we got super fans, but there was, like, when it comes to first corners, there's nothing intentional that goes on. We're all basically battling for the exact same spot, right? So I want to get your feelings on that, but overall damage control day for Joel Hetrick. But tell me about that first corner and what you saw there.
So I'll give you two perspectives. Looking at it from, I was behind the gate. I watched it start from there, and man, like, you see Joel carrying this wheelie into the corner, and I'm like, man, that when the front tires are up like that, when you're next to him, you're not only scared. I don't know, Joel, like, carrying the front tires like that, man. He was obviously getting power. He was getting a great run down that straight. But being like, when I'm next to somebody carrying the front tires like that, I'm like, man, they're, if I get too close here, they're going to set down on top of me and all that. So, and then the other thing is that, when those front tires are in the air, they're going to have to set down at some point, and the bike's going to get a little upset. And I've seen Joel been doing that in some practice starts too, man. He's just getting the power to the ground really good. And Chad was right there next to him, and it looked like Chad really ran it in there hard, trying to get to that same piece of real estate.
Yep.
And it looked like Chad ran it maybe in there too hard when I was watching from behind. But when you got that side video of them, man, it really changed my perspective on it. Is that I guess we even start with that. I don't think any corner's dangerous or any first corner stuff's really that dirty. Rubbing's rubbing, man, and you whole shot, we all know, means so much.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, as soon as I saw that video from the side view of it, Chad was right there with Joel the entire time.
Yeah.
And I don't think any top rider would have let off at any point there.
No.
They would have fought for that. Joel maybe had half a wheel on him, but I'm gonna let you know, if I'm on the inside, somebody has half a wheel on me, I'm gonna be pushing on him.
You're gonna stay in it. Yes.
Yeah. I think the bad part is that they just kind of stuck together at some point, and then it lifted them, and they kind of like stuck, and it just upset both bikes, and they both went down hard.
Yep.
But man, it's hard to say, because we all know how much that first turn means. Those two know they're in a title hunt. We know we're round 2, but they know who their competition is. And both of them, I'm sure Joel, put it this way, I'm going to look at it as if I was in either of their shoes. If I was Joel, I'd be trying to shut Chad down. Like I want to make sure he ends up behind me. And if I'm Chad, I'm going to run in there and push Joel wide so I can get the start.
Of course.
And I would assume, I would expect both of them did those exact things, because that's what they should do.
Yep.
That's what they should have been focusing on. They knew who they lined up next to. They knew who was to their right and who was to their left.
Yep.
And they knew that both of them, that's their biggest competition. And they both were pushing it. And it's hard. It is really good, because I saw some of the comments and stuff. People were going hard on Instagram and stuff like that. And Joel get on there, great for him, man. Great to come back, sit down and look at it and get on there. I didn't listen to it, but I heard everybody saying, he came in there, like you said, talked to everybody down a little bit and said it's first turn, and that it is what it is, man. And I'm gonna it's hard to look at it, and man, it really sucks that they both went down. It sucks for Chad that I'm sure we'll get into it here in a minute, where he's at right now. Joel did great damage control, but that first corner, man, first corners are first corners, and it's tough, man. It's scary. Like, that's the scariest part of the race to me.
It is.
You got too many people trying to get the same spot.
It is. So you really hit the nail on the head there. I don't think if they lined up again today to do the exact same thing, neither of them would have done anything differently. It just is the way that it played out. And it's obviously not the way anybody wanted it to. Neither of them wanted that to happen. They both ended up flipping, but it's open wheel racing, and that's what happens. I mean, they were both holding their line. And so you hear, and I heard people calling the other one, the other rider dirty, no matter what stance that fan stood in, right? If they were a backer of Chad Wienen or a backer of Joel Hetrick, I heard it both ways. I don't really know. Like, I can't see it from that perspective, right? Again, it's just like nothing in my mind is intentional in a first corner, unless you drive straight into somebody. It's just a first corner incident. Those things happen. But I think what happened when those two locked tires or touched tires, they started like getting locked together. And like you said, they started to buckle and come up off the ground. That's what steered Chad, down into the sticks and into the grass. It's not like he was aiming for that spot. And that's just, again, that's what happened in the end. And so yeah, tough place for both of them. Obviously for Joel, he was able to charge back to 7th in that first moto. Obviously, rode banged up, but fought through it in the second moto to win that second moto and earn a place on the podium with 3rd overall. But different circumstance for Chad, for your buddy there, Thomas. First moto, he scores a couple points. He finishes 17th. He's rolling around, showing how badass he is, though. This is something we touched on earlier in the episode. Still jumping some of these step ups and stuff with a broken collarbone. That's what we know now. Dude is just unreal. He doesn't get enough credit, I don't think. But let's touch on a little bit, what you know about where Chad's at right now. So you took him to the hospital. You know how much pain he was in. Kind of tell me what that was like after that first moto, because this is something that we haven't seen from Chad in a decade and a half almost. So this is a unique situation for us.
I'll start right there with that last thing, and it's kind of ironic where you said it's been a decade and a half, and I had to help Chad out a lot that day. He was in pain, broke collarbone, all the way to helping him get his rig to get back home with his rig and everything.
Yeah.
And he on the way we're driving there, and I said, man, dude, you're taking this so well, like you're not too down, and I'm like, man, that's I'm impressed, how he's like, man, just think about how many starts I've done, and this is the first time I've ever been hurt at a race. And I'm like, wow, like not even just this first time I've ever been hurt in the start. It's ever been hurt in a race. And I'm like, you're right. Like, wow. Like he's looking at it as the positive side. Like, yes, it sucks this season. It's not where it was.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have a big hole to dig out of and all the above, but man, he's thankful that it's been this long and he's been healthy. So to start there, his attitude is really good. He's ready to get fixed. He's and trying to do everything he can to get back, but he's in a good mind space as far as that he's happy where he was. He's bummed because I got to spend a good bit of time with him right beforehand, and he was feeling good. He was ready for this battle this year.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's tough to feel. When Chad came off the track, I was there. I guess taking a little step back is while he's racing, I'm like, all right, he's jumping stuff, but he's not charging corners, but he's still jumping stuff and still making laps. I have no clue what's going on, because if it was something that he was afraid that he was going to wreck with, he would stop jumping stuff. But he was jumping stuff. I'm like, okay. But now he's not charging corners, and it was weird. And Danica had messaged me halfway through the race, bike or him. And the only thing I could reply is I'm worried. Because at that point, the only thing I could think is it's him, but I just couldn't figure out what, because I have no clue how he could. And like, it's not like he was just jumping stuff, seat bouncing it, and then landing. He was like, the stuff he was jumping, he was still like halfway scrubbing. And I'm like, I have no clue what's going on. And then he comes off the track and I'm there and I'm broken. And I'm like, what do you mean you're broken? You're broken or the bike's broken? Because that's what his word is. I'm broken. And I'm like, he goes, me. And I'm like, what? He's like, collarbone. I'm like, all right. So we get his shirt off, and it was that obvious one that you always see where the collarbone's, pushing against the. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Your collarbone is broken. How were you still riding? And it wasn't clutch hand, it was throttle hand. So he was still having to work that throttle in the air. Like, this is stupid. Like, I have no clue how you did this. But he did, he was thinking points, and he was trying to think points all the way to the second moto. And I think after he cooled off and got, dressed, he's like, okay, I got to go ER. Like, it's bad enough. I am really broken. Maybe not. He was thinking before he came off, but man, it was tough. Tough was, I'll give him that. I don't like giving him too much credit. I like to give him more crap than credit, but man, that was pretty good. Well, like I said, he seems to be in a good headspace. He's ready to get it fixed, and, trying to do everything he can do to get back to the.
Yeah, for sure. That adds to the legend, Thomas, of if he comes out the track knowing his collarbone's broken and he's still cruising around out there, jumping the jumps and doing what he was doing with the throttle hand. That's amazing. So we will kind of look forward here before I let you go to what this looks like for Chad going forward. But let's kind of complete this list here. So 4th overall on the day was Nick Janusa. 4-4. He was super consistent as always. Good points day for him. Held off Brandon Hogue in the second moto. Vicious battle, vicious, pressure from Brandon Hogue in the second moto. He ended up 5-5 on the day. So 4-4 for Nick Janusa, 5-5 for Brandon Hogue. I would assume that, these are the guys that we're going to see kind of push for podiums going forward, I would think, Thomas, but they're as competitive as they always are. I think they're exactly as we would expect. Maybe Brandon Hogue still finding his footing with this new team, new machine a little bit, but these guys are right where I expect them to be. And I think that they're going to be right in the mix for podiums going forward.
Absolutely. I haven't been there the last few years, but I've been paying attention, and it's been a throw Bryce, Jeffrey, Janusa, Hogue, Lindquist into a bottle and pull out their names one at a time, and you could get any of them for the podium in any moto. And it wasn't like certain tracks fit one or the other. Hogue came out 3rd last year overall, but man, those guys really mixed it up. So looking at this race, I'm like, okay, Bryce and Jeffrey took a step forward, and Hogue and Janusa are still doing dang good. But man, it's like they were a little off of Jeffrey and Bryce, is from what I've seen in Moto 1 and then Moto 2. Like, but I'm not saying far off. I mean, Janusa was hanged right there for majority or pretty much all of Moto 1. So it's not like I'm saying a start could have made a difference. But man, it's like, okay, but I know as far as that goes, you can just look at last year and be like, okay, next week it could be something totally different, So those guys need to, if I was them, I'd be looking at that. It's like, okay, we just got to regroup. Janusa he seemed like he was consistent.
Yep.
He's right there in fourth. He could see those guys. Great for him. He just needed a little bit of just a hair more, which is always easily found. I mean, that dude trains in Jersey all winter.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Credit to him.
I'm sure as good as his compound is, that's got to be rougher on him, and he'll just maybe steadily get better. Hogue, like you said, his big deal is that's the first outdoor race with his team.
Yep.
So should be just nothing but up from here. You know, the growing pains and stuff like that of a team. And, you know, you had that other rider I mentioned a second ago in there is Lindquist. He changed big teams this year, and it looked like maybe they had those growing pains this first race. So with that being said, it's like, man, like they can kind of bounce around, but man, those guys, time will tell with that whole group. They all can, you know what? One thing racers are good at, they're good at looking at the bad side and being disappointed in themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but they can also look at what they should do, I should say, is look at any part and be like, okay, see, if I would have had this changed, it would have been all different. I can fix that. You know, look at the highlights and just focus on that. And, you know, the greats, that's what they do. You know, I've heard that from, you know, racers and competitors all around the world. They don't focus on the negatives. They try to focus on the positives, fix the negatives and focus on the positives.
Yeah, I think that you're totally right. I mean, being a top level elite athlete and pro motocross, ATV motocross racer like you were, you know how it is. Like you got to create this perfect little bubble of positivity and happiness as a racer, right? Like that's just something that your crew and you have to create for yourself. So I think that you're exactly right. You know, kind of touching on Brandon Hogue there. I mean, he was second fastest in qualifying. So the speed is there. He's just got to put it together. And the whole shots, the starts were so important at this race. I think that was maybe what he was missing there a little bit. Sixth place overall, was super impressed by him again this weekend. Logan Stanfield, he went 9-6 on the day for sixth overall. That's his third consecutive sixth overall finish, Thomas. Logan Stanfield's been super impressive so far this season, ended last season with a sixth. 2-6 so far this season. Fifth is his best. It's a career best that we saw a couple seasons ago at Lake Sugar Tree. I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to get into the top 5 here before we know it. I think he's been really strong.
Yeah. And honestly, I didn't know that. Logan, if you ask me, he had kind of a quiet race. It seemed like, now that you mentioned, I'm looking back, it seemed like he kind of pushed through and just putting consistent laps. Obviously I didn't get to see Moto 2.
Right.
And that I don't think he's a lot of flash, and just keeps putting the effort in, you know, and good for him. He's been at it for a little bit now. He seems like he's just improving. And with those results right there, talking about highlights, he's just, man, look at that. And, you know, he is right there on that edge.
Yeah.
You know, that consistency will pay off. And I'll tell you, every time you get to ride with, you know, if he's getting closer to those guys,
yeah,
the next little group there, the more he rides with them, the more he'll become one of them. You know, it's key there, and he'll start gaining that speed that he's maybe, missed in the past, but it seems like with them results, it's hard to argue. He'll just keep improving.
Yeah, for sure. I think that he's clearly proven to be super consistent. He's like a pro's pro. He's there every weekend, kind of does the same stuff every weekend. And I think that speed is getting a little closer and a little closer, like you're touching on there. Seventh overall was Wesley Wolf, 8-7 for seventh overall. Hell of a ride for him, especially because he felt like he felt like a rookie or something. That was the verbiage he used at the first race. So he's really coming around on that new Yamaha ride. Seventh overall was good for him. So glad to have him healthy and back at the races. Eighth place, Thomas, is a heartbreaker. Zack Decker. He was amazing in that first moto. I'll let you touch on that a little bit, because that third place finish in the first moto, I don't want that to be overshadowed by how the day went for him later on. But that third place finish, really keeping pace with Bryce and Jeffrey for a lot of that first moto. Shoot, Zach had an amazing day. I mean, to think that he's only a second-year pro and comes up third in that moto, really, really, really impressive, because he wouldn't have had to do anything super special in that second moto, and he was going to be right near the podium. So I'll let you touch on Zach's first moto there and how impressed you were.
Yeah, absolutely. I was, and I'll honestly, with looking at things, I would say maybe if you took just the first moto, that would be my standout rider of the day.
Yeah.
He didn't just get third. He was in the battle for that lead for a good bit. Like, he was really out there, really pushing with those guys. Like I said, at one point I saw him get up with next to Bryce and basically had a pass made. And I think if he would have maybe had a couple more years under his belt, he would have been able to solidify that spot and fall into second and actually push Bryce back. but Bryce stayed in it with him, and they battled like side by side for several corners, and Bryce was able to get the spot back. But man, Zack, like I said, he wasn't just riding around in third and had this big third. He was there with those guys. I think towards the end, Bryce and Jeffrey seemed like they had a little bit of a gap, if I can remember right, on him. And I'm talking a little bit, and Janusa was there kind of pushing. But ultimately, for the first time, man, like knowing that he's running third, knowing how mentally like cool that is, but that is a lot of stress. And he rode absolutely great. Like I saw his dad on the way back. He was hustling back, and I said, man, boy's riding good. Like it was a good ride, man. It can't be overshadowed enough. I hope him, healthy recovery, because obviously everybody's kind of seen what happened in Moto 2.
Yeah.
Or I haven't seen it, but just heard about it, and man, it just sucks. There's no other words about it. I just hope he can get back to healthy, and know that, man, he probably, if he would have had a decent result in that second one, could have easily been on that podium with them boys.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't want it to be overshadowed by how we know that second moto goes, but that first moto was so freaking impressive. So obviously crashes in the second moto. We heard that it was a stuck throttle, like directly from his dad. That's everybody's biggest fear. I think that's just a terrible thing to think about. But it sounds like, he breaks his femur, he breaks his wrist. That's what his dad confirmed for us. We announced that yesterday, but sounds like everything, he's on the mend. Clearly could have been worse. I know those are big injuries, but surgery is done. He's on the mend now. It's all up from here. So just want to say, again, thoughts and prayers with Zack Decker, and I want to see him get healthy. Rapid fire kind of going down the list here. 9th overall was Max Lindquist, 6:13. So he was in much better position in the second moto than he ends up. He was 4th, 5th, 6th about in that first half of the second moto. Looked like maybe he suffered a mechanical from there. So obviously not totally representative of the day that, he was going to have. Cody Ford, another strong top 10 finish for him, 11-9 for 10th overall. Michael Allred, your guy, Thomas, ends up 13-8 on the day for 11th overall. Sounded like you said something about you were helping him with a motor swap earlier in the day. Is that what was going on?
Yeah, so he not a full motor swap. They had a little mishap, and between Q2 and the first moto, things got a little wild, and he we had to do some we had to do some repairs. He didn't get to finish Q2 out, and then so he didn't get as many laps as he would liked, but we were able to get everything back together on his bike. It was just it was a lot of work between motos, so he had a little extra stress going in there, but Mike is man, the dude gives it all every time, so there was no worry there, is that he would go out there and give it. I'm a big fan of Mike's, and Chris Hunt, his main supporter with Huntscapes. They've trusted a lot with me these past few seasons, and man, it's good to see Mike get some good results. The second moto was a lot better, and he's just going to keep improving. This man works a full-time job and stays in North Carolina all winter, so I see just improvements from him, especially coming off a year where he had a big injury. So I think it'll just keep improving.
Yeah, for sure. Love seeing that guy do well. I think it's all up from here for him. Kevin Saar ends up 12th overall. We talked about that earlier. He suffers that crash in the second moto with tangle with some of those guys, suffers a fractured vertebrae in his back. So 10-15 for 12th overall for Kevin Saar. We want to see him get healthy and back to the series. Aaron Salinas, Texas guy that I know you pull for a little bit, Thomas. He ends up 13th overall. Great for a rookie. Second moto was really strong with 10th in the second moto, 16-10 for 13th overall. Vince Merman, 14th overall, 15-11 for him. Adam Ulrich was 15th overall, 14-16 for 15th. Going down the list here, Andrew Shaddle, 16th overall, 19-12 for him, 16th overall. Dane Molander, 17th overall, 18-14 for him, 17th overall for Dane Molander. John Glada, who we had been following after Daytona there. Good solid first moto, 12th in the first moto. Second moto, he got tangled up with some of those other guys and ended up pulling out of the race there, not making a lap. So 18th overall for John Glada. Chad Wienen comes in scoring 4 points, 19th overall on the day. We touched on that. The one thing I didn't touch on before when you were saying that is he echoed very much the same message to me. He said, the drag of the sport is the injuries, and he had been dang fortunate, were his words. He's been dang fortunate for being healthy for so long. And he said that this can be a quick recovery. So I'll ask you about that in a minute here. Then finishing up the class is Cesar Jimenez in 20th overall. He broke his collarbone as well in that first moto incident with Joel Hetrick and Chad Wienen. It sounds like he's going to go back to Costa Rica and get healthy before coming back here to hopefully finish out the season. So prayers also to Cesar Jimenez. The one thing I do want to touch on with you, kind of sticking with the pro class before I let you get out of here quick, Thomas, I want to shift gears and kind of look ahead to Texas. Thomas, Underground is a place that well, of course. We touched on it a little bit. That was your home race for a number of years. You won it in 2019. That has to be about as great of a memory as you had in your racing career, winning at your home race, huh?
Yeah, it really was, man. Texas is a good track. And it never, I never matched good with Underground. It was rough, but it was very fast. And we got to the faster tracks. I never excelled there, but I will say the last few years, my motor program changed quite a bit. And I started getting some, I had probably one of the faster bikes on the track. So we got to the faster tracks. It really helped me there. I do want to, before we get jumped too far forward, we were pretty positive on everybody, which is great. I want to, everybody's other races, man. I want to be positive on everything. But one thing I did not get to mention is this is going to kind of it's going to be good, but it's really going to boost Bryce Ford is something I saw on the second moto when I was watching it from the hospital.
Yep.
Is he was passing Jeffrey. He was pushing on Jeffrey.
Yep.
He didn't need that pass for the overall.
No.
That was just extra. That was him just knowing that he was faster and pushing, or at least I hope it was that he was that comfortable. And then that if I was taking anything positive from the weekend or negative from the weekend, if I was looking at Bryce as a competitor, was that he made it happen both motos when he didn't even have to. Now, maybe in his mind, he didn't realize that one point he maybe thought that he had to beat Jeffrey, but I would imagine with his team and who his mechanic is that they would have been relaying that to him. Yeah. So I don't know if he knew it or not, but the fact that he made it happen both motos, that's a key point that I would be focusing on for if I was in the Ford brothers corner.
Yep,
would be the key point. And if I was against them, that would be one of the negative points I would be looking at.
I agree 100%. So that's something that we touched on a little earlier before you joined the show is his racecraft was so good. Like he was so calculated. It looked like he was so in control. That first moto, he did everything just right. Didn't push it too hard. Got, not too sketchy too many times. Second moto, same thing. He's pushing. I was worried. I was like, okay, don't mess this up now. Don't get tangled with Jeffrey or anything like that. And he was so calculated. It just all came together for him. He executed so well. So I'm glad that you saw kind of the same thing that we did too. So kind of wanting to, again, look forward to Underground here before we get out of here. I want to take a look at our SSI Decals top 5 storylines quick, Thomas, before we get out of here. Looking at our top 5 storylines heading into Underground. So storyline number 5 is which rookie will be the first to earn a top 10 finish, with Kevin Saar and John Glada presumably being gone now for a little bit. Which one of these guys? Is it Aaron Salinas? Is it Dane Molander, Adam Ulrich, Andrew Shadow? Which one of those guys is going to step up? And if at any point with these 5, Thomas, if you want to, kind of butt in here and give us a prediction. But my top 5 storyline, my number 5 storyline is which one of these rookies is going to step up and put it in the top 10 for the first time.
I really ain't got much to add there. I'm not too close with any of those specifically.
Aaron's been the one that's impressed me. Honestly,
yes,
I don't know.
I would agree too. And he's going to Texas. So that's, like I said, it's kind of like Bryce. Bryce always excelled when he got to Texas. He made it happen. If I had to choose someone or you want me to choose, I would go with Salinas. But that being said, man, these rookies there, it's a big jump and it's a lot of learning. It's who can learn the fastest.
Yep, for sure. I think they've all been like Shaddle, as I pull up my thing here. So Shaddle had a 12th place in the second moto in his rookie debut, which was really good. Adam Ulrich has been impressive at both of the first races. Don't necessarily know what's going on with Dane Molander. It might be a quad thing as he adjusts to the LTR and stuff like that. But again, I think that Aaron is the guy that seems to be a step ahead of the rest of them. My number 4 storyline, counting down to number 1 that I'm looking at with our SSI Decals top 5 storylines. Number 4, I'm looking at Jeffrey Rastrelli. We kind of touched on this a little bit already. We both know how bad he wanted to be the one to get over the hump and get that first career win. Obviously, we know he's going to be super fired up going into Underground. My thought is what are we going to see from Jeffrey? I don't know it's necessarily a win, but is he going to be able to do that same thing again? Get some hole shots, run up front, be in the mix, kind of be a podium guy all day. I'm wondering if he can put that together again at Underground, Thomas.
If the key part here would be his starts, I think so, is if his fitness seemed good, he has 2 good results and he has some good starts going. He had them good in Daytona and he had them good here. The key was the great was here. So that's going to be the big difference going into Underground, is not having that great start. Mm-hmm. Like as far as the great behind the starting gate where that metal mesh, it really can hurt or help some riders. If he can keep the starts where he is, man, I think Jeffrey has it. Jeffrey's always, when I race Jeffrey, he always seemed to have a little bit on me at Underground. So looking forward to that. And I think Jeffrey will come in there and I think he will turn it up, and man, I think he will continue on where he's at. And if the start stay is good, I could see him maybe even improving on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that that's something that I thought that he's always been good at Underground. I really thought that was something in the back of my head here. So moving on to number 3, storyline number 3, after 3 consecutive 6th place finishes, like we touched on a little bit earlier, can Logan Stanfield match his career best with a 5th? I think that that's something that's very much on my radar to see if we can see that at Underground. So that's something we touched on a little bit already. My storyline number 2 that I'm looking at is after achieving his first career win, does this unlock a new level for Bryce Ford, a new level of confidence or whatever it is, a new level of expectation for him? Again, that's something that we touched on already. And my number 1 storyline, something I really want to hear from you on, my number 1 storyline going into Underground is, does Chad Wienen return just 1 race removed from breaking his collarbone? I talked to Ian about this earlier in the episode, knowing that Chad wanted to get this thing plated, that was his plan. We know that if you get that thing plated and that break is right in the middle, which it seems to be for Chad, that's a quicker turnaround, quicker recovery time, quicker, return is possible with a plated collarbone. So that is my number 1 storyline to watch heading into Underground, is does Chad Wienen return just 1 race removed from breaking his collarbone? Thomas.
If it was me, I would have to say I would, obviously I have educated guess. This is not me speaking for Chad, but I believe he will.
I think so too.
Yeah. And I believe I could have said that about anybody of these top guys. If you will look back, I don't know what season it was, but Joel 13. Did it. And he,
2013. Yep.
With 1 race in between and came back. No, was his result great? But no, he got good points. Mm-hmm. Chad has an extra week over what Joel had. Yep. So I think we could really see him maybe even get a better result and go out there and do something with what we saw him gut out in Moto 1 with it being broken. Coming into this, having basically a 3 weeks off. Yeah, man, it's a good chance. I know Chad's going to come out there swinging. He was disappointed in the points he already lost, so I don't think he's looking to lose too many more. So knowing him, if it was me, I would say, yeah, I think we're going to see Chad come out swinging. Do I think will he be battling for a win? No, I don't think so. But one thing I think we can count on is even if Chad doesn't quite have the speed, he because of maybe just not being there. We also know he's not going to be riding every day. Chad has your fitness is grown. He ain't going to lose everything he worked on the past 3 weeks right away, and he's going to use his veteran savvy to put consistent results. And he's won a lot of championships off being that consistent guy. So I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a result coming out of Texas that's, if we look at the overall, it's better than maybe if we look at each moto individually. Yeah. So I would, if it was me choosing, I would say we're not going to be battling for wins, but I would expect to see a good result come out of him. And it's hard to say what a good result is, but I think he'll put 2 consistent rides in and he will fight through it.
Hey, him just being out there is going to be impressive. But I saw somebody commented on one of our posts earlier today and said, I expect Chad to be out 12 weeks. I'm like, there's no chance.
No.
There is no freaking chance.
It would be great to see, and there's a chance that things don't go right. I mean, the surgeries are surgeries and things happen. And Chad does have a family and he's not going to put himself at risk.
Right.
So I would say there's always a chance he doesn't get to race at all. But if I was a betting man, which I like to put some money here or there, I would say that he races and he puts in a good result.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement there with you, Thomas. I was very excited to get your feedback there. But Thomas, that should wrap it up for our pro class coverage. What a weekend it was, man. It doesn't get any crazier than that. And like I said, I'll echo what I told you a couple weeks ago when you joined the show. You're always so awesome. I can't thank you enough for your time. We're wishing you all the best with your new career, obviously, all the stuff you're studying for and everything you're working on there. Wishing you and Brandy all the best as you get set for a new arrival to the family there, and wishing you all the best with everything in between. You're the man, and just appreciate your time so much being here to chat a little racing. I think your insight is always so valuable here on the show.
Cody, I appreciate you having me on. I like to thank you for all the kind words. And, it's a lot going on here. But, man, I do want to say thanks for being here, having me on. And then also want to add, man, anybody that's listened to this, with the way the day went on Saturday, man, I really Chris Hunt asked me to do mechanicing work prior to coming. I said, man, I haven't been to a race and just got to see everybody yet. And I said, man, I'd rather not. I said, I'll be there if anything bad happens, which they needed some extra hands. So I was, I jumped in and helped. And then with Chad going down, I didn't get to see anybody. I shook a few hands and ran by a few people. And then honestly, with everything with Chad going on, I was kind of running back and forth and getting my truck. And a couple of people were like, hey, and I would shake hands with me. Like, and Jeremiah, one of my idols, was like, hey, and trying to talk. I said, I got to go. I'll talk to you later. And the time I got back from the ER, everybody was gone. And I jumped in Chad's motorhome and helped him get it back. So it was, it sucked. I didn't get to see everybody. So everybody that was there, I missed seeing all y'all. And like I said, thank you for letting me have it on, and hope everybody has a great season.
Yeah. Well, hopefully next year, right? I'm sure we're going to Daytona again. Hopefully we're going to Gatorback, and hopefully you'll get another chance to hang out with everybody. But Thomas, again, and we appreciate you so much here on the show. You're the man, and you're always welcome here, pal. Anytime you want to come back, you just let me know.
Awesome. I appreciate it. You have a good one, Cody.
You rock, buddy. That's Thomas Brown making his return to Digging Deep again, presented by Blenders Eyewear, blenderseyewear.com, right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. Thanks so much, pal. Man, how about Thomas Brown? He is so good on the show. What an awesome addition he always is, and a great group of guests tonight overall. So much to talk about, so much to discuss, and a couple great personalities to discuss it all with. Before we get out of here, I want to quickly cover our amateur racing. We did mention it at the very beginning. We mentioned some of it at the very beginning in our quick hits segment there that we're trying out this week. But quickly, the amateur results that jumped off the screen for me, obviously Pro-Am, Jaden JJ Launderville gets the win there in Pro-Am, the overall win. Mason Jackson comes in second overall, 5-1. What a Pro-Am debut for him, winning the second moto. And Blair Miller goes 3-3 on the day to complete the podium there in the Pro-Am class. Pro Sport was Brett Music out front, as we've come to expect from him, the reigning champ. Tino Abatiello goes 1-2 for second overall, and Joe Chambers 3-3 on the day for him to earn a podium spot. Going down the list here, Kinsey Osborne always seems to jump off the page. Second in Open B, third in 450B, and a WMX win to kick off her title defense in the WMX class, which is very, very cool. She was followed in the WMX class by Neve Shaw and Shelby Cabrando. The 250 classes, we always seem to monitor them as well. Noah Arnall wins both the Youth All-Star and Schoolboy Senior classes, while Landon Korn wins 250 mod. And then as we get to the smaller classes, Styles West grabbed a couple wins in the 90 Open and 90 Shifter classes, and Ethan Cornell won 70 Open and 70 Auto. And guys, that is going to do it for our coverage from Gatorback. What a weekend it was. Sure gave us a lot to talk about here on the show. I want to thank tonight's featured guests, Ian Harris, Bryce Ford, and Thomas Brown. Thanks to producer Dallas Jansen, my brother, for all his hard work. Thanks to Brooke and AMA official Harv Whipple. Thanks to all of our donors. You know who you are. We appreciate you so much. Thanks to all of our partners, CST Tires. Go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Nemura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, the financial advice of the Haymara Financial Group, DP Brakes, Factory 43, Binky's Forever ATC Museum, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at manscaped.com. Support the brands that support our show, and don't forget to use those codes to save. Find it all on our website, and be sure to click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. And most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. And if you are still listening, I'll let you in on a little secret. We have some huge news coming about this very season of Digging Deep ATV Fantasy. It's been a blast so far, but we have some huge news coming about what event wins are going to qualify you for as this season plays out. You are not going to want to miss it. I think we're going to get even that many more people playing after they find out what we got up our sleeve. So you can sign up, sign in, or check out ATV Fantasy today at atvfantasy.com and at shop.diggingdeepatvmx.com. You can find our all new alternative logo shirts and hoodies just in time for the new season. I'm wearing one as we speak right now. If you're looking for another easy way to help support us, visit our website and click the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee buttons. This allows you to set up a one-time or monthly contribution to support our efforts. You can leave us a voicemail. We'd love to play them on the show, especially talking about what's going down at the races, all of this craziness. Many of you have said you wished you could call into the show. This is your way. You can leave us a voicemail. We'll play it on the show and act as if you're just calling in live. So give us a call. That number is 920-569-3519. That's 920-569-3519. Follow the show on social media, Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, and myself, Cody Jansen, for additional content, coverage, and more fun stuff as 2023 is officially in full swing. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. All episodes, additional podcast providers, sponsor links and discount codes, show merchandise, fantasy info, and more can all be found on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com, so check that out today. Be a friend, tell a friend, please download, subscribe, rate, review, and share. And with that, for Ian Harris, Bryce Ford, Thomas Brown, Brooke Jansen, Dallas Jansen, and I'm your host, Cody Jansen. Thanks for listening to and making us the most listened to podcast in ATV racing today, with over 207,000 downloads last month in 101 total countries. Until next time, thanks for joining us in Digging Deep with the Stars of ATV Motocross. Things are crashing and burning here at the Digging Deep podcast, much like the Titanic.
Those guys were hauling ass, for real.
I remember watching Doug Gus, I don't know who it was, Steel City, running the same times Friday afternoon as James Stewart was on Sunday back then. It was mental. I've never seen quads go that fast.
Quadlers are freaking gnarly.